Yeah, for sure.
Attention, can I get everybody to gather your fruit cups and sit down, please? We'll start our meeting very shortly. Yeah. Okay. Very good, very good. If we're ready inside, then I will call the meeting to order. Tonight is the monthly school board meeting for June. It is June 5th, 2023. And I will start the meeting by asking Ms. Hastings if she would call the roll.
Sure. Mr. Richards?
I am here.
Ms. Walsh?
Here.
Ms. Higgins?
Here.
Mr. Weinberg?
Here.
Mr. Cotton?
Here.
Ms. Robinson?
Here.
Ms. Meeker?
Here.
Mr. Croto?
Here.
Here we have a full house.
Very good. Full board.
Full board.
Thank you very much. And does anyone have any modifications or additions to the agenda this evening that they would like to propose?
I do have one proposal for the agenda, and let me know if this works or doesn't, but I'm wondering if we could bump number 5, item 5, up to before number 3, just because Tom Daigle, who also happens to be my spouse, needs to leave a little early and was hoping to give his speech early.
Okay, the motion has been made to move item 5 up to before item 3. Is there a second to that motion?
Seconded.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that change has been made. And are there any other additions or changes to the agenda? Not seeing any. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as just recently?
So moved.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and with that, we will go to the Concord Tree Subcommittee with Tom Daigle. Mr. Daigle, if you'll come up to the microphone. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. How close do I have to speak to this?
You're probably good, but speak loud because they're listening to you all over.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you all this evening. I'm here from the City of Concord Conservation Subcommittee on Trees with John and Zip, who are also on the subcommittee with me. And we want to take this opportunity to introduce our subcommittee, our mission, and start the process of communication and collaboration with the district and the board. So if you're not familiar with the subcommittee on trees, our mission is to promote plantings and maintenance of Concord's urban canopy on public and private property. And so Concord Schools, owning a lot of prominent, beautiful public property in Concord, we thought it would be a nice chance for us to share some resources, some information, and allow you to ask us some questions about our subcommittee. And then over the next few months and years, as the district develops plans for new buildings, new grounds and everything, just want to make sure that trees are considered prominently in that, as it's kind of part of the nice character of Concord. So that's my introduction. Anything to add to that? Resource sharing too, I guess I'll mention that 2 schools, Concord High and Abbott Downing, were awarded, what were they called? They were schoolyard canopy enhancement grants recently, which is a nice accomplishment, and that was through the State Department of Natural Resources. So I just want to make sure that some of those grant opportunities we're aware of as a subcommittee. And by the way, we're volunteers, so I'm not representing the city or the city's budget or anything. This is volunteer. But when those grant opportunities come through, could there be a chain of communication to get awareness out to each school that they could apply for such a grant if they wanted to? And other kind of, this is an example of different coordination activities we could do. So is there any questions?
Are you the go-to person? Like if somebody has a question, like me,
I
and
will
I
be the
want to
go-to
reach out to
person
someone?
representing the Concord, the tree subcommittee,
Yes.
as it relates to schools, yes.
Okay. Is there a bigger?
Ted Deers is the chair of the subcommittee, and on the Concord, and Beth Fenstermacher is is the city planner. So
Oh, got it,
on
got
the
it, okay.
website under the Conservation Commission, you can link to the tree subcommittee and it gives all the members and contact information.
Great, thank you.
Very good. That website connection is what we really wanted, so we can pass it on.
Yep.
Other questions? I have a basic question. Will you be using native trees, and will they be a diverse canopy that you're creating, and so we don't end up with like
5,000.
a bunch of ashes and chestnuts somewhere that end up getting susceptible to?
Yeah, there is a list online of the trees that are available through the Sustainable Tree Program. Not all of them are native, but none of them are invasive, to be clear. So,
Okay.
yeah. And by the way, that reminds me, through Matt, our subcommittee has already engaged with the district at this property and at Abbott Downing in the years past. We volunteered to help plant a couple of trees. And so Matt is already aware of a little bit of what we do, and we've helped the district already, so it'd be nice to partner more.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
So we also tie in with.
Could you
any
just,
of-
I hate to interrupt you, but can we pass the microphone so that people at home can hear you?
I'm Elizabeth Carell, and we also talk with other committees, particularly Energy and Environment. It's a natural dovetail because we're all focused on energy, climate, and those factors, and we're trying to raise the visibility of some of the messaging, like the cooling benefits of trees, the street calming benefits when you have trees in proximity to the road, and that kind of cooperative cross-pollinating.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Go ahead, Mr. Weinberg.
And from what I saw, there was a report done about Concord tree canopy cover, and it noted about 40% or something of that sort was lost, correct?
Yes.
In 20 years.
20 years.
Yikes.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you all very much for coming in and for providing your contact information, and we look forward to working with you.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Matt and Kathleen and all.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much.
Thank
Ellen.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you to the retiring teachers too.
Yes, indeed.
Which is what we get to move on to next.
Woo-hoo.
It is our retirement recognition ceremony, our annual retirement recognition ceremony. Superintendent, this is
like the
you.
best part of the meeting. I know we have a great group of folks with us tonight, and the principals have a few words to say about each of our retirees. We wish we could spend the whole night, but you know, there's a number of them, and so their remarks are limited, but not the limitations about how much we appreciated the work that they've done in the district for so many years. So we're going to start out with our transportation department. So Terry's going to come up and do that for us. Should I grab the microphone, perhaps?
Yeah. Great idea.
Hi, I'm Terry Crotty. I'm the Director of Transportation for the school district, and I have the privilege of saying farewell to Gary, the bus driver Ford. Why don't you come on up and join me, Gary?
I love Gary.
Gary is well known in the school bus industry and the school district. He has driven school bus for so long that some of the kids that rode his bus became adults, and in turn had kids that rode Gary's bus.
Yeah.
Bus driver applicants started showing up using Gary as a reference. They did not know him in a professional capacity, but as former students, they were well behaved while on his bus. The moral here is, be good to your bus driver. In addition, Gary engaged with the community by coaching Little League and rec basketball. I remember that whenever he won a city championship with one of his teams, he would change the vanity plate on his personal van to reflect the name of that winning team. His team started winning so often, DMV could not keep up with him. He finally settled on Knights as his permanent license plate. But at that point, all the teams needed to be called Knights. This is just a sample of Gary's creative ability when it came to problem solving. In the school bus world, there is a lot of problem solving. No 2 days are alike. Each morning, well before most of us were awake, he would take a short list of available drivers and spread them across a long list of routes. Creativity, encouragement of his players, and a bit of luck would often result in a game plan with winning results. Thank you, Gary, for many winning seasons. I have one more. Wally Merrill, Walter Merrill, AKA Wally. I moved my focus from probably one of the most well-known bus employees of the district with Gary to one of the least known, Wally. He has been the invisible man for the last 24 years. You didn't see him. You probably don't see him now. But he was there. He came to work every day and labored in the background as a heavy-duty diesel bus mechanic. His tasks were hard and physically demanding, but he never faltered. And he never took sick time unless he had a scheduled appointment. He was an employee you could count on and the type you might take for granted. On at least 2 occasions, he had to run the shop alone for weeks on end, maintaining and inspecting 50 active vehicles. He put in some long days and nights back then. He could single-handedly change a 180-pound mounted tire in a bus in minutes to get the vehicle back on the road. A NASCAR pit crew would be in awe. More importantly, he made sure that the buses were safe to operate. He would not admit it, but he cared dearly about the kids riding on the buses. He kept the school bus fleet running at 100% compliance, at a 100% compliance level, and he knew he had to work quickly with only a few hours between shifts to get many tasks completed. It was a lot of pressure and responsibility, but he got it done. He was inspired by his own work ethic. Just do what you're supposed to do. He never backed down from that principle. Wally is a no-nonsense, can-do, will-do individual. I was lucky to have him on my team. I am thankful for what he contributed, and I'm a richer person for knowing him. I wish him a lighter load and contentment in his retirement. He deserves it. Thank you, Wally.
Okay, we have 3 retirees from Rundlet this year. Retirement's always bittersweet. We're excited for our retirees as they start their next chapter, but also sad because we will miss them and all they have contributed to our school community. So only one is here this evening. Mr. Gosha, come on down. Sir. Mr. Gosha has been teaching at RMS for the past 36 years. I reached out to colleagues to see what they had to say about the years that they have spent with Jim and how his teaching had impacted students over the years. Here's some of the things that they said. Jim is always at school and always has a lot of energy for his kids. He creates engaging lessons and does not shy away from difficult topics. Jim was one of the first teachers to volunteer for our DEIJ training. He is passionate about this topic and has helped RMS make progress in this area. Jim has been the student council advisor for several years. Student voice is very important to him, and he finds a way to empower students to make our school a better place. Spirit Week, dances, yeah.
Coming up next week.
Yeah. Jim has planned the Washington, D.C. trip a few times, and just the fact that he's willing to take over 100 8th graders to Washington, D.C. says a lot about the man. Jim's penchant for theater is useful in his teaching. Walk by his classroom sometime. It is not a dull place, the way he delivers his lessons. Jim has always been the voice of positivity in cluster meetings. This comes from your cluster mates. When situations get stressful and things seem to be extra challenging, Jim always finds the bright side of the situation and puts things into perspective. We will all miss Jim's dedication to his students and colleagues. We know that when we miss him, we may be able to stop by Gibson's or go see him in a play. Saturdays. RMS is so lucky to have had Jim on our faculty for such a long time. Thank you for 36 amazing years, Mr. Gosha. Cheers.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
And our other 2 retirees who are not here are Terry Winger, who, hold on a sec, has been in the district for 23 years. Yes, 23 years, and Ron Jocks has been a teacher at RMS for the past 19 years. So congratulations to them as well.
Mr. Lynn, would you like to join us?
These random names out of a hat tonight. Good evening. Anthony Blinn, principal of Abbott Downing School, and as Mrs. Fitzgerald said, it is a bittersweet day for Abbott Downing. Peg Samaha, who is choosing to retire after 35 years with the Concord School District. She has been educational assistant in a variety of different assignments around the school. Regardless of her role, this is one spirit you want in your school. It doesn't matter if you're elementary, middle, or high school, you want her on your team. She brings enthusiasm to your school, spirit, and energy. She can often be found dancing or maybe singing down the hallway, maybe a Mamma Mia song, a little dancing queen. Just today, I saw her heading right down towards Mrs. Macary's room, and I saw a little spring in her step. But that's who Peg is, and that's what she brought to our staff. That's what she brought to our school community every day. You're going to be deeply missed by every single one of us, but we wish you well after so many years. Thank you.
So, Beaver Meadow, would you like to come up to show, Mrs. Vance?
To me. I'm Michelle Vance. I'm the very proud principal at Beaver Meadow School, and this lovely human being next to me is Pam Bean. Pam Bean began her teaching career here in Concord District in 1994. She has taught reading recovery in her beginning years for 3 years, and then she taught kindergarten at both Beaver Meadow School and at the Dame School. In 2002, she joined the first grade team, where she has called up to this school year her home. She's been on our first grade team at Beaver Meadow School. It has been an honor to work with Pam these past 7 years. And there are two things, especially two things, that stand out about Pam. Number one, Pam understands the power of a smile, a kind heart, a kind word, a listening ear, an honest compliment, or the smallest act of caring, all of which have impacted the lives of her students and her colleagues and all of the families at Beaver Meadow School. And number two, she has, without doubt, over her whole career, inspired her students to embrace the power of yet towards greatness. She will be missed on the first grade team, but not at Beaver Meadow School, because I already hired her back.
That was awesome.
Are you finished?
Yes, well, Mary Pop is also here, but high school apparently stole her from me, because they had her for multiple decades, and I only had her for 3 years.
But you have to understand that Bridget has this all organized.
I got an email saying
All
that
right.
I wasn't.
Fine.
You should talk about Mary.
We'll talk about that in the morning.
I can remember all that.
So, first, would you like to join us? That would be great, because you won't call it school.
I'm Stephanie Marshall. May you please join me?
Hi.
Stephanie LaRochelle has devoted 35 years of service to the Concord School District. She started her teaching career in 1988 at Dewey School, where we're sitting today. She moved multiple times as our neighborhood schools combined. I personally am fortunate to have spent the last 11 years with her at Christa McAuliffe School. She is a collaborator who enjoys new learning alongside her colleagues. Stephanie's love for literature was evident in her literacy arts position and has been alive in her classrooms at CMS in kindergarten, grades 3 and 4. She consistently creates a literacy-rich classroom where students truly learn how to think about books. Her positive classroom culture promotes friendships, kindness, tolerance, and acceptance. She always has a great sense of humor and is a terrific sport, including dressing up for her students as Chicken Hare and Taylor Swift. We have proof. Stephanie also brings her love for her farm and her animals into the classroom, creating very memorable and teachable moments for us all. I remember a certain baby lamb pretty well. I will miss Stephanie's smile, warm heart, and genuine care for her colleagues and students. Thank you. Happy retirement.
Barb Franzim. Yes, Chris.
Barb Franzim has served as a school counselor in the Concord School District for the last 36 years, and she's only 40. She worked at Walker, Rumford, Kimball, Dewey, Eastman, and Beaver Meadow, and she's just completed her 11th year at Christa McAuliffe School. Barb is the person that our students seek out for just about every reason. Her clear specialty is helping students to problem solve their friendship issues, while always helping them to understand their role within the relationship. She supports students through a variety of groups throughout the school year for grief, anxiety, and social skills. She is the go-to adult at the main entrance, helping some young friends walk through the door each morning. She is the one helping a child to de-escalate from a tough moment. Every student who has participated in our guidance specials classes can certainly teach you all about their amygdala, fight or flight, and being a bystander hero. For years, Barb has spearheaded our efforts to provide assistance to our families in need. Additionally, she's been an incredible support to our entire staff during many challenging times. And personally, I have benefited frequently from her poise and steadfast demeanor. She is always willing to listen, provide her feedback, and share the multiple perspectives of a problem. I will truly miss our daily conversations, our laughter, and our friendship. The doctor. Dr. Carol McCarthy has devoted 28 years of service to the Concord School District. Carol began her career as a reading recovery teacher at Conant School. She taught kindergarten at Dewey, grades 3 through 5, and special education at Kimball, and 5th grade in special ed at Rumford. Then I met her at CMS, where she taught grade 5, then moved into the special ed coordinator role for Christa McAuliffe School and Beaver Meadow, and then she became our first assistant principal for student services at CMS. I have loved my 11 years with Carol. She has consistently modeled positive leadership, high expectations, ethics, and a love for all children. She demands that kids come first. She ensures that all our decisions are based on what is best, not on what is easiest. Carol's office is always active with conversations, questions, collaborations, ideas, creativity, new learning, and laughing. All right. We all seek her out for advice about instruction, tricky situations, and special education process and law. Carol has a huge heart and would donate her right arm or youngest child to support a colleague, family, or student in need. I am not only losing a colleague who's the most diligent person I've ever worked with, I'm losing a special friend, and I'll miss her dearly.
Wendy Bemis has worked for the Concord School District for the past 20 years, dedicating her time to working with students as an educational assistant. She started her career at Concord at Dames School and then moved over to Millbrook. Over the years, Wendy has worked with many different students, helping them be successful and learn and grow. Wendy has made a difference for many students. She does this by getting to know her students and their interests. Wendy is creative and always willing to try many different things to engage her students. No matter the challenge, Wendy always finds a way to connect, teach, and have fun with her students. Thank you, Wendy, for all you have done for the Concord School District, and best wishes for a great retirement. Okay. Lee Weber. Lee has worked as a teacher in the Concord School District for the past 34 years, dedicating her time to working with students. Lee has worked at Dames School and Millbrook. Lee is kind, compassionate, and caring. She is the definition of a lifelong learner, always willing to learn new things to support students. She is collaborative and is always ready to help the greater community. She has been described by her colleagues with this quote: "She is the reason someone smiles, the reason someone feels loved, and she believes in the goodness of people." Lee has had a positive impact on many students and colleagues over the years, and she will be greatly missed. Thank you for all you have done, and best wishes for a great retirement. And Linda Blake is also retiring. She is not here tonight, but she has worked for the past 19 years as an educational assistant, working with some of our youngest learners in our preschool program.
Our assistant superintendent for curriculum, Kim Yarlock, is going to do a presentation for the retiree from central office.
It's not me.
Just got here.
Looking around empty.
Lori Hart.
Hello. Lori Hart has been in the Concord School District for the last 27 years, working with our youngest learners and our neediest families. Since 2014, she has served as the Early Education Coordinator. In this role, she's been responsible for the development, organization, and assessment of comprehensive services for families and children from birth through age 8, including early childhood programming, early childhood screening, which is still going on, school readiness services in the community, family outreach, and our highly successful family center. Mrs. Hart has the ability to rally the partners in the community to step up to help others. She's involved and sits on many community organizational boards and committees and helps to organize events that benefits families. She's been an outstanding resource for our new American families. Lori cares deeply about communication with families. She provided means for translations through Language Line, Language Bank, and tutors. Lori's compassion toward families throughout Concord can be felt here at Central Office. She cares deeply about those around her, as demonstrated by remembering a birthday, congratulating one on the purchase of a new home, welcoming a baby, or acknowledging a passing of a loved one. All of the life events that make us real. Lori's everlasting kindness, empathy, and dedication will be truly missed. We will especially miss our go-to person, because when we don't know what to do, ... we ask Lori. Thank you for your service to Concord's children and families. We wish you well in your retirement and know that Concord is always your second home.
I'm not sure who went to high school first. Who's going to start?
All right, good evening, and I have the pleasure of speaking on behalf of a number of people at Concord High School about Helen Dugan. Helen has been a crucial member of Concord School District for 35 years. She's been a librarian at CHS for 15 years. She has provided help and modernized a space for teachers and students to learn, research, and collaborate. She has never shied away from getting involved. She's a former advisor for the Granite State Challenge Club and volunteered to help amazing events like the annual Poetry Out Loud competition. She was frequently found there being a judge, scoring, and would often offer students her own I'm sorry, spelling mistake there. She'd often offer students, not only would she take interest in what they did, but offer additional readings, books, and stuff that they could dig into if they desired to learn more about the poem that they use for the competition. Helen also has spent many years digging deeper into research across all subject areas. Why? Because she wants to be able to help students and teachers. She has been the woman behind the curtain who works and gives counsel and leadership to make difficult decisions and has helped shape the future direction of CHS. Helen has been an essential and fundamental building block that supports CHS faculty and staff in their academic mission. Thank you, Helen.
So I am going to speak to our two science retirees, both of whom fortuitously for me asked for letters of recommendation. So I'm going to read those letters, and if anybody wants to hire them for anything, they can just step forward. We'll start with Jane Voth. Probably have to stand up, Jane. To whom it may concern, Jane Voth, who has taught science at Concord High School for the last 37 years, has asked that I write a letter of recommendation upon her retirement at the end of the school year. I'm happy to write that letter. I'm considerably less happy that Jane is leaving Concord High. Objectively, I'd be suspect of the continued productivity of anyone who had spent this many years at the same school. Jane puts a lie to that assumption. She teaches biology to seniors and freshmen, and while I wasn't here 37 years ago, it's difficult to envision that she taught with more passion, enthusiasm, and skill than she does now. There are 3 sections of her senior advanced placement biology class so as to accommodate the number of students who want to take it. The rigor, engagement, and excitement around this course are legendary. I witnessed a presentation to our school board last year by 4 of these students who described the sophisticated individual projects each was undertaking, projects they were pursuing under Jane's guidance during after-school hours. This work was in addition to the students in Jane's normal workload. Simply stated, Jane Voth is an exceptional individual and teacher, talented, dynamic, and deeply committed to the success of her students. If she chooses to teach part-time following her retirement, she would, as noted, prove exceptional. She has lost nothing off her fastball. If she seeks employment in another field, hire her. Her capacity for achievement and productivity is undiminished. Simply stated, she's as good as it gets and has my unreserved endorsement. Congratulations. Victim number 2, Sarah Carson. To whom it may concern, Sarah Carson, who has taught science at Concord High School for the past 28 years, has asked that I write her a general letter of recommendation upon her retirement at the conclusion of the school year, which I'm happy to do. The level of Sarah's dedication to the school and its students is beyond impressive. Over my 4-year tenure here, I've had occasion, despite my earnest efforts to avoid doing so, to come into school over the weekend. I am not exaggerating when I say that every time I did this, I would run into Sarah, who was here to set up an experiment or feed lab animals or whatever required her attention to be fully prepared for the upcoming week. On days when I was here into the evening, which I also assiduously tried to avoid, I would again frequently run into Sarah reviewing her students' work or preparing slides for the following day's classes, or enjoying a girls' basketball or volleyball game, which she attended religiously. Sarah is a superb classroom teacher, organized, student-centered, and rigorous. She cares deeply about her students, their learning, and their well-being. Thus, any prospective employer would not be hiring an employee as such, but rather someone who is invested in the community and the individuals who comprise that community. This is a special and, for an employer, invaluable distinction. Sarah will make your school or business better and your community stronger. She has my unreserved recommendation.
I have two, one of which I believe is not here, but I will read. Linda Lawson. Linda Lawson has been a member of the CHS community for 19 years. She came to us from a teaching position in New York City and had a perspective and approach that supported our community at a time when we saw the diversity of Concord growing rapidly. In her tenure at CHS, she has served as a teacher leader through her work as a curriculum facilitator and developer of solid written curriculum, performance-based assessments, and rubrics for existing courses. Using her own background in journalism, she has grown our journalism program, making the decision to offer this course to all 4 grades of students. Linda keeps high academic standards and expectations and supports every student in meeting those expectations. As a colleague, we have relied on Linda to be fair, supportive, and balanced when there have been difficult topics or discussions. We also rely on her Christmas cookies at the December department meetings. They rival a trip to the North End of Boston Bakery. Personally, as a colleague, I have relied on Linda for her perspective on teaching, raising children, and even being a decent spouse. Linda is an excellent listener, compassionate, and epitomizes the understanding that we should never assume we know what someone else may be going through. She teaches her students and her colleagues to be kind, recognizing that we never know what they may be going through in their lives. Thank you for being a role model for both of your students and your colleagues. Linda Lawson. Cheryl Vitt. That made it in here. Cheryl Vitt has been a member of the Concord School District community for 30 years. She came to our high school when we added 9th grade to our high school community, moving from our middle school. She brought a wealth of experience regarding the developmental and academic needs of our youngest high schoolers. In her tenure at CHS, she has worked to enhance our English electives, including poetry and world literature. She has been known to have students participate in some of the coolest non-traditional English assessments, before we called them non-traditional English assessments, by the way, including creating life-size models of Grendel as he was defeated by Beowulf. Cheryl is seen bringing in bagels or donuts for classes who are sharing their poetry, probably for the first time that they've ever shared a poem with somebody else. She also has a breakfast club who meet regularly in her classroom. In addition, Cheryl was one of our very first advanced placement literature teachers. Cheryl has also taken the opportunity to teach abroad and has brought back a wealth of multicultural experiences to her classroom. And several years ago, prior to the COVID push for social emotional learning, Cheryl made it a professional goal of hers to consider the emotional well-being of her students simultaneously to the academic well-being. She was well ahead of her colleagues in her understanding of the mental health of her adolescent students. As a colleague, we appreciate Cheryl's sense of humor and forgiveness. Cheryl is the ultimate peacekeeper, focused on ensuring that her colleagues are okay, getting along, and that everyone feels heard. Cheryl's colleagues also admire how she is able to get just about any student in her class to write poetry, even if they think it's too touchy-feely. Cheryl has had some really challenging health issues that would have easily made any of us decide that a job teaching adolescents would be too difficult. However, she has persevered through these significant challenges, even most recently, including taking a tumble at Spring Fling, resulting in a cast and an arm, and comes to work every day with a smile. She's back at school already today, thank goodness. She has a hello for every student who enters her classroom, and she is ready to meet their needs every single day of the school year. I hope that Cheryl can take some time in retirement to take care of herself instead of the hundreds of students and colleagues that she makes a priority every year. Thank you very much.
All right, on behalf of the Special Ed Department and Michelle Speckman, I'm going to go through a couple of the Ed Assistant retirees we have this year. Sue Talbot, are you here tonight? All right, Sue has been an assistant in our Access program at Concord High School. She has worked with a range of students and with a variety of special education teachers in different programs. Sue has always been open to working with students who may present with more challenging behaviors, and by doing so, these students have made progress and have had wonderful advocate behind them. Sue is always willing to take the initiative to help where it is needed and to guide her peers in working with students who she may have a better understanding of. Sue is honest, she shows incredible amount of integrity and has strong work ethic and makes wonderful connections with students. Sue will be missed, and we will wish her the best. Thank you, Sue. Noli Beth Dale, you're here tonight. Noli Beth has been an assistant in our Access program at Concord High School, and she does so every day with a smile. Noli Beth is truly a dedicated person to all her students and to those whom she works with. With her guidance and support, these students have made great progress and enjoy being in school. Noli Beth is a wonderful colleague and always maintains a level of positivity, which can be difficult on those days when we have a lot to do. And with limited resources, she continues to work to her best of her ability to meet the needs of her students while being collegial and collaborative with her colleagues. She's always ready to pitch in, and it is then that she is able to connect with those around her, the program students, her colleagues, other ed assistants, and teachers. The day just would not go on without these sorts of efforts. She does it regularly without expecting any acknowledgement. We appreciate all that she has done at CHS for our students, for her colleagues, and we will greatly miss her next year. Thank you, Noli. Deb Miller. Deb Miller is an educational assistant who has been at CHS and who has worked in a variety of programs. She's always willing to learn new things. She has great ideas and strategies for working with students and has become an expert with some of our students and has been essential in the transition plans out of Concord High School. Deb is a strong advocate for any child that she works with and is always willing to teach others who want to know. She is dedicated to the program in which she works and supportive of all her colleagues. Deb has a heart of gold and her warm personality, dedication to the programs that she works in, and extreme professionalism will be greatly missed next year. Thank you, Deb. Next, I have Carol Lundin. Carol Lundin is retiring this year from a Diploma Academy Coordinator position. Carol's been working in the Concord School District for 22 years. She has occupied a variety of roles. Each of these, she has had a lens. How do I support the reluctant learner or the struggling students? She has been doing experiential learning with students before it was a common educational term. Activities such as building outdoor classrooms, miniature libraries in the neighborhoods, and cooking to teach math are just a few. Freshwater fish tanks, greenhouse, community cycles, and exploring nature as a science lesson. Her passion has truly been around alternative education to support all students, but often it is the student who are at risk of failing or even dropping out that find their path to graduation through the compassionate guidance of Carol Lundin. Carol's success in her role has been rooted in supporting the whole student, taking time to identify their interests, build relationships, incorporate social-emotional learning into her alternative lessons. Her impact on CHS and the greater Concord community goes beyond recovery and alternative education. She's provided avenues to achieve goals, gave hope to those who did not see a bright future, and has no doubt touched so many lives in a positive way. Thank you, Carol.
Mary Palm. Hi, Mary. So we have the pleasure of talking about Mary. Mary has been over at Beaver Meadow for the last, how many years? Yeah. Just for a couple of years, but we had the benefit of having Mary with us. When I began at CHS, there were 2 school nurses at CHS, and both of their names were Mary. And so the nurse's office for the longest time was called the Two Marys. And there were even new teachers who came in at that time. That was a time that Concord High School was expanding tremendously. There were new teachers who weren't sure which Mary they were talking to at any particular time, but they knew they were talking to a Mary. Barb is remembering this. But I would like to talk specifically about Mary Palm. Mary Palm is candid and honest as a school nurse. She is dedicated and willing to serve all students, especially those who could really use support financially, getting them a snack. She was always there for every single one of them. And in addition, she was active in expanding the role of the health center and making a difference in the entire Concord High School community. Thank you, Mary.
So I get to finish it off tonight, and I have a chance to ask Dr. Reardon to come up and be with me tonight. Come on up. Imagine this, he can't talk, so that's pretty good. You know, Michael, I get to do all the talking. And I did something that Michael did. I wrote, I will, I'll be very careful. I wrote a letter to Dr. Reardon. Congratulations on your second retirement from public education. Richly deserved retirement, I might add. For over 45 years, you have devoted your career to the success and well-being of children in several communities, in Timberlane, in Pembroke, and now in Concord. However, your leadership has had the greatest impact here in the district as principal of Concord High School. You were asked to provide guidance, advice, and a humanistic approach to students and staff that were demoralized by an event that shook the district and the community, and then only to be faced with COVID-19. And after the exhausting impact on student learning, your approach to healing and support has been amazing. Some would say a textbook approach, but it was more than that. You took time to recognize and make it a priority to address the safety of students, ensuring the facility was a safe place for everyone to come each day. While some were unsure that the culture and climate could be restored, you and your team of educators proved them wrong. You have tenaciously built a safe and nurturing learning environment for all. Along with creating the environment conducive to learning, you guided and support a team of facilitators and assistants that accepted the mission of restoration and worked in tandem to create a positive learning and outcome in a sizable institution. You have had enormous influence in all aspects of social and emotional growth in students. You have worked to ensure that students had a voice on the principal's advisory as well as in daily classroom advisories. With all of your efforts to ensure a safe and secure environment, you never forgot the role of academics. You and your team continued to reinforce competency-based learning and grading, supported extended learning opportunities, and increased expectations by expanding the number of credits needed to graduate. Faculty were encouraged to examine the programs of study and add courses that would motivate students and encourage exploration. Michael, you have clearly left a footprint in Concord, at Concord High School. I acknowledge that many are thankful for the 4+ years you devoted to the school. Next week, we will celebrate the inaugural recognition of those Concord High grads who have had significant impact on the city, state, and the nation via the Wall of Fame. Although you aren't a Concord High School graduate, you too have greatly impacted the lives of many while serving as the high school principal. In my eyes, you are a champion for children and a professional at the highest level. Thank you for your service and best of luck on your new journey.
Thank you, everyone. I'm always in awe after this presentation each and every year. We are very, very fortunate to have had these outstanding educators. But as much as I know you're interested in all the exciting things that the board is going to do, I'm going to have a 5-minute recess, and anyone who wishes to leave can. Dr. Herbert will get coaching on spelling, and Mr. Cashman will do something about raising the air conditioning. 5-minute recess. Thank you. welcome back. We took a brief,
Yeah, that was a tight
just took a brief recess, and it's already cooler, and so that's great. And with that, we will move on. And we're up to the next item is meet the candidates. Superintendent?
Hi, thank you. I would like you to have a chance to meet some administrators that I will place their names in nomination tonight. Our first will be that I will nominate Graham Chowder from high school, assistant principal. So, Graham, you want to come up and join us and maybe share a little bit of your work, and the board will, I suspect, will ask a few questions.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. My name is Graham Crowther. For the last 8 years, I've been a mathematics teacher and curriculum facilitator at Concord High School. Before that, I began teaching in Laconia for 5 years, and that's where I started my educational journey. I was originally born in Scotland and didn't move to the U.S. until I was 10 years old. So have a full world view of education, and I've always taken that as part of my background with my students. I'm looking forward to the challenges of stepping into an administrative role. As I've completed my CAGs and working on my doctorate, I've learned more about the capacity of an administrator and how an administrator can affect more outside the classroom than a teacher can inside the classroom. And that's the part of the aspect of the job that I'm really looking forward to is that reach. As part of the interview process, I asked Kylene what she enjoyed most about being an administrator. And she put it so eloquently that you don't just get to stay with one class for 1 year. You get to stay with 400 kids, 600 kids, 800 kids for 4 years. So making those connections with kids and seeing them as they enter through their high school journey and then walk across that stage at the end to grab that diploma and head off to whatever they desire, and we've set them up for successfully. I feel extremely fortunate to be joining a team that I've had the pleasure of working integrally with as a curriculum facilitator. I think that's another exciting aspect, that I have people who I know in positions that I can ask questions that'll have my back, that'll help me acclimate really quickly, and look forward to getting started as soon as possible.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Crowther. And you are familiar to those of us on the board since you've been here, so you already know the really tough parts of the job you have to come in as dealing with. Mr. Croto, did you have a question? Oh, I thought you raised your hand. I have a question.
If I did, it was very inadvertent.
Oh, okay. I was going to defer to you. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Crowther?
Just want to say welcome in your new role.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
Good
it.
luck.
Thank
We look
you.
forward to seeing more of you
Absolutely.
as we get into the next year.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I did advise him that we were not going to let him off the hook in terms of mathematics and his strong background in mathematics. So he will continue to work with the team in terms of the curriculum, and he's been doing a great job at the connection between the high school and the middle school and working with the staff. So I'm, even though he has this new role, I still look forward to him doing that work with us as part of his administrative duties.
Excellent. I already talked to him before the meeting about the exact same thing.
Did you say the same thing?
I said about the exact same
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
he and Colleen can attest. So, yep.
Thank you.
You know
Thank you
your
very
you know your job. So thank you, Mr.
I
Crowther.
appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Then we have a new assistant, as you know, Dr. McCarthy retired, and so the team over at Kristen McAuliffe went to work and interviewed some more, and so I'd like to ask Lindsay Nye to come forward and meet the board and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
My name is Lindsay Nye. I have been an educator at the Henniker Community School since 2003, so this is my 19th year of teaching. I have been a preschool teacher, kindergarten, first grade for many, many years, not as many as the last retiree, but pretty close. And I've also taught a first and second grade multi-age classroom. And for the last 4 years, I have been the student services coordinator at the Henniker Community School. I asked my principal at the time if I could teach fifth grade, and he said, no, I have another job for you to do. And that was in 2019, right before the pandemic hit. So my first year as an administrator was really interesting. But we made it through and have just transformed a wonderful team. And I am here today because I'm ready for my next challenge. I have lived in Henniker my entire life, so Concord is the big city for me. I've just been coming here many, many times, many different sporting events, coming to the theater, seeing plays. But more importantly, have always been in awe of your school system and the programs that you've been able to offer to your students. So I'm very excited.
Thank you, Ms. Nye. Did they tell you don't get discounts to the theater or the play? Does anyone on the board have any questions for Ms. Nye?
Thank you.
No? Good luck. Thank you. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
You've got a good team.
I'm very excited. Yes.
And the last person I'd like to introduce to you is the person I will nominate for the middle school principalship, Jay Richard. Jay, would you come up? I think you, many of you know the process that we went through in terms of the interview process, and Jay also spent the day last week over at Runlet with students and staff and parents, and met with the administrative team, so we put him through a good workout. So he's here tonight, and share a little bit about yourself, Jay. And
Again, Jay Richard. It's an honor and privilege to be here. I've been a school administrator for quite a while, 14 years to be precise, in my current school district. This is the only principal opportunity that I actually applied for. And I think, being a principal in our state's capital is a big deal, and I'm really looking forward to this opportunity. I'm really excited about working for Superintendent Murphy. I do have some family history here in Concord. I was, born here in Concord. My parents are from around the area. My grandfather and father actually worked on Main Street for a long time. Some of you might recall the Junior Deb Varsity shops.
Back to school. Best place ever.
Yeah, so that was a while
stores.
ago. But again, I'm just really proud to be here, really excited about the opportunity. A little about me. Work ethic, showing up every day to help kids. That's what I'm all about. Supporting my staff to help kids, and that's who I am. And again, I couldn't be more enthusiastic about being here tonight. It's it's a privilege. I'm really looking forward to this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Richard.
A great connection.
Questions?
Well, her contract's up in a couple of years, so.
That was nice.
His term's up in a couple of months.
Not that we're counting.
You bring that up with the succession plan policy on the agenda tonight. Is there a message I didn't get?
He
said he wanted to work with you.
Well, we have an awful lot on the plate for our middle school, Mr. Richard.
Yep.
We have a lot to do. You will not be bored.
Yep.
And we look forward to working with you.
Yeah, again, I'm really looking forward to the opportunity.
Excellent.
So it's great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome. That was the only store you could get Levi's at for a long time. And the youth center was little girls' clothes, and Junior Deb was teenage clothes.
Clearly, Mr. Richard's family made an impression.
Oh, huge impression.
Superintendent, do we have anything else?
And not on that one. You're
that?
back to your agenda.
All right, in that case, then we are to the consent agenda. I assume that everyone has had an opportunity to read through the 3 items on the consent agenda. Are there any questions, changes, or additions to that?
Move the consent agenda.
Okay, motion has been made to accept the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Cotton. I'll let Ms. Hastings catch up.
I'm all set.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda is accepted. We will now move on to celebrations, CRTC.
I couldn't resist in I know we celebrated a lot tonight, but I think for the students, it was really important for them to share. And I asked Ann Fowler, principal at the Career and Technical Center, to bring some students and share some of the things that they're doing, and it's pretty exciting work. I think you know a little bit about it, but I wanted you to hear it from a student voice.
Welcome.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to give a little bit of an update of CRTC, and then I'm going to save the best for last. Right. CRTC has had a successful academic year. As some of you may know, we have 2 year 1 classes that feed into 1 year 2. And we are at capacity in that situation with many students waitlisted. With regards to year 1, we have 450 seats, and we had over 600 applications this year. So we're in good shape regarding to enrollment. Programs in demand continue to be construction trades, health science, and criminal justice. Almost 2 weeks ago, we had our year 2 completion ceremony. We celebrated the accomplishments of 252 students who have completed the requirements of one of our 12 career pathway programs. By comparison, that's about 21 more students than the prior year. We have seen an uptick in paid internships in our programs. We had 15 students from year 2 auto who completed their practical work for the course off-site and were hired in industry. We also had 5 students in the construction trades program working towards working in the school year in the fields, and 14 of them were hired upon graduation. Last Friday, we had the pinning ceremony recognizing the hard work and achievements of 21 students who have met the requirements to become an LA&A. And then tomorrow, we're going to be hosting over 300 8th grade students in Concord surrounding communities, providing them with information about CRTC. And in the next few weeks, we're going to begin the construction of our center with the assistance of Matt over there. And we're going to remodel our culinary facility so that our students can get more involved in catering, serving breakfast and lunch, and give them more contacts. We are also remodeling the business classroom because we're required to make it a simulated work environment, not a classroom. So we'll be bringing in some collaboration tables with TVs mounted on it to support project-based learning. And we're also adding a stock market ticker symbol across the top of the class. We've had 4 new staff members this year in health science, culinary, automotive, and education behavioral science. They've transitioned very nicely into their new roles, and I'm pleased to report that we are fully staffed for next year. So, program changes for next year include transitioning our EMT program to offering it in-house versus contracting it out. As a result, we're moving our EMT out of health science, and our instructor is now going to be able to offer athletic training, kinesiology, sports medicine, physical therapy, and occupational therapy. Nice. And saving for the best for last, our newest program is the I Teach program, which many of you are familiar with. It's a program in which our students in their first 2 years of CRTC complete our education behavioral science program. We've created a pathway to NHTI for the following 2 years, and they have arrangements and articulation agreements with 4-year universities for the second 2 years. Basically, the students at our program will finish taking a para-pro assessment. Concord School District, we met with HR and John Fabrizio last week. We'll potentially hire the students as para-educators, and then they begin to work in the district while beginning their education at NHTI. After 2 years, they would finish their education at NHTI and continue on to a 4-year program and ultimately become a licensed teacher with little or no debt through the apprenticeship programs. So today I brought with me 2 students, Sophia Bateau and Emma Washburn, and they're going to be amongst the 4 students who have expressed an interest to pursue this new pathway. So I've asked you to come here this evening to share with you the reasons why they chose that pathway. I don't know who wants to begin.
I'll go first.
Okay.
My name is
Pull the
Emma.
mic right over.
Can I just have you pause for a second to get the microphone so everybody can hear? Thank you.
My name is Emma Washburn. I'm currently a senior at Concord High School. I've been part of the Education in Behavioral Science CRTC program for 2 years. Going into this program, I was confident that I would be getting the education needed to help me prepare for my future, and I can confidently say that it was the right path for me to take. So immediately when the I Teach apprenticeship program opportunity was offered to me, there was no doubt that this would be a very beneficial program, especially considering everything education in behavioral science has prepared me for. How highly this program was talked about for the last 2 years. Yeah, how highly it's talked about. For the past 2 years, I've student taught at Abbott Downing Elementary School in Jill Aday's 3rd grade classroom, which is something I'm very grateful for considering how much it has taught me and how well it has prepared me for my future opportunities. I was able to work with many different students and create my own lesson plans, which grew my passion for teaching even more. Through education and behavioral science, I have earned many SNHU credits that I am able to transfer to my college transcript, including culturally responsive citizen, children with exceptionalities, and interventions in early childhood. All of these credits offered that I took was no doubt one of the best decisions I made towards my education, which helped me grow as a person as well as a student. Besides the credits I've earned, I've also been lucky enough to participate in many training opportunities offered through this course, such as attending multiple workshops and using Cognito, which is an online program that allowed me to act and make decisions as if I was the teacher, giving me feedback on what was done correctly and gave me input on what I could improve on. I was also able to become certified in mental health first aid and universal design for learning, level 1. I can confidently say that the education and behavioral science program has led me towards the right path academically and as well as prepared me for my future and has greatly impacted my education.
Thank you, Ms. Washburn.
Excellent.
Very good.
Hello. My name is Sophie Buto, and I have been a part of the CRTC Education and Behavioral Science class for 2 years now. Coming into this program, I never would have thought I'd get the experiences and the opportunities that I do now. I've earned certifications in Universal Design for Learning, as well as mental health and first aid, which is really important. Education CRTC gave me the opportunity to get a great experience inside the classroom setting, and we called it fieldwork, which is what we went to every Thursday and Friday. I started my student teaching in a 3rd grade classroom at Beaver Meadow School, which is also where I went to elementary school growing up. The teacher that I taught with was Michelle Cernuda, who also used to teach alongside of Valerie Cook, our EBS teacher. So I returned back to student teach with her for my 2nd year as well, which went amazing. I made really good connections with the students and the staff at the school. There's one little girl in particular that stuck out to me this year as I thought about my time student teaching. She has never gone to school ever. She just did ABC Mouse, so it was kind of starting from scratch. It was interesting to see the progression she made throughout the year, and I was really happy to be a part of the success in the classroom, and that was one of the main reasons why I chose to do this program. Throughout the 2 years of student teaching and EBS, I loved working with elementary students. I worked with students who had special needs, behavioral issues, severe ADHD problems, students who were nonverbal, and students who just began school at 3rd grade level. So I've gotten a lot of good experience. I will be continuing my education at NHTI, getting a major in early childhood education. The I Teach program is such a great opportunity for all students who want to get a real experience and work on their degree at the same time. I'm very grateful for the partnership with Concord School District and NHTI, and I really look forward to one day becoming a teacher in one of Concord's really good schools.
Very impressive. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Ms. Fowler, we may need to get a bigger space than the gymnasium, since I was there that night.
So
Yes.
I'm standing in the back.
Since you were there that night, I could see that we had a full house, so
Yeah,
excellent.
that's tough. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies. Really appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. Very good. Superintendent,
I would-
you're up next.
I
with-
know I would
I know you're gonna-
pass the baton to Finn.
And if I'm not mistaken, this is Mr. Brown's last time making
Yes.
this
Oh, it
presentation.
is.
We will miss you, Finn.
Wow, it's been fun. It's been fun.
Yeah,
So
I bet.
enthusiastic and convincing.
The years flew by.
We wish you well, Finn.
Hi, everyone. There's a lot of senior events coming up in the next 2 weeks. There's also probably events for all the other classes, but that doesn't really matter to me. So I'm just going to go with the seniors. The last day for seniors is this Friday, and then next week we have the senior trip on Monday. On Tuesday we'll have the very first Hall of Fame induction with Justice Souter and cap and gowns. That's what will be handed out. And on Thursday we'll have the prom, and then on that Saturday we'll have the graduation. So that's it for me.
Mic drop.
Very good. They get so honest on their last meeting. You know, I don't care about anything.
It's been fun, but I'm out of here.
I just wanted to keep it short and sweet.
Appreciate that, Mr. Brown. Thank you very much, and we wish you all the best. We've enjoyed having you, and we've learned a lot having you as a member of this board.
We hope all of the seniors have fun and are very safe.
Yes.
The next week or two. Thank you.
All right. Next up, Superintendent. your
I have
report.
some brief remarks. You have a lot of business to take care of, so I'm going to try to be brief. And tonight was enough, I think, with all of the recognitions. Just a quick update. We're continuing to interview. You can see that. You'll see that when Michelle presents some more folks for nomination and for your to elect to positions. But it's been really good, actually. We've filled our positions and are in very good shape for the beginning of June. So I'm very happy with that, including ed assistants, which have been challenging. One of the ways that the ed assistants were able to do that was, remember, we had 17 positions in ESSA with ed assistants to help the little ones. Remember, first in kindergarten, first grade, second grade? Well, the money has, obviously, as the grant has dried up, we've offered those positions, any other position in the district. So everyone has a job, which is really nice. Filling positions that we had trouble filling. So we think we're in very good shape. There's still a few areas, bus drivers. I think Terry was here. He'd tell you that we're still looking for bus drivers, although he does have some in the pipeline, which means training, and that takes time. It's not an overnight kind of thing. Food service is another area that Donna still has a few vacancies. And of course, Matt has some vacancies as in custodians. But Matt really did something kind of really wise. He asked the folks in bus drivers and or food service folks if they wanted to work in the summer, because they don't, right? They're finished. So Matt needed extra hands to help getting the buildings ready for the fall, and offered positions to those folks, and he's hired folks from our food service and bus to help us with that lack of custodial services. So again, I give Matt some kudos because that was pretty good. Students are finishing up on their state assessment testing in reading and math and science. They're doing some makeups in many of the schools and finishing up in the area of mathematics. So we should have those soon. The nice part is that Kim and Tom are going to do a presentation, a video for parents, so that they understand how to read the reports. You know, when they get the reports home with the SAS testing, and so Tom and Kim are preparing a video, help them understand. Anything else you want to add to that?
Those access codes for parents to find their tests, their students' test scores will be sent out Friday.
Okay, can you repeat that into the microphone so everybody can hear? Thank you.
So we anticipate that on Friday, parents will receive via Parent Square an access code that's particular to their own individual student, with directions on how to use that access code to get into the tests, followed by an accompanying video that will explain the process. If a parent does not receive that, it's because the student is still doing makeups.
Thank you, Ms. Yarley. Appreciate that.
Again, reminder, high school graduation, I think Finn reminded us, Saturday, June 17th. This year, we also have a middle school celebration on June 20th for the 8th graders. It's at Runlet in the gymnasium, and I believe it starts at 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock. So I'll send out a note to remind you, June 20th, if you are able to be there. Of course, it's nice to have you there. The only other thing, of course, has been in the news, and Matt's done a lot of work on it, is this Get the Lead Out program that we've been dealing with. So I asked Matt if he could just give us a quick update on the status of that program, and just remind everybody that there will be a Zoom call tomorrow night around Get the Lead Out program. It's all yours, Matt.
All right. Thanks, Kathleen. So back in 2018, we began our first round of testing of the water faucets and fountains. And areas in the kitchen, and the level at that point was 15 parts per billion or higher. So when we conducted that test, any faucet that had that 15 parts per billion or higher would isolate, would change out, and then would retest. Just last year, that limit dropped from 15 parts per billion down to 5 parts per billion. So we started over the April vacation, we started doing some sampling. And as you've probably seen, we've had about 17% of what we've sampled so far is either at 5 parts per billion or higher. Ironically enough, a lot of what we tested in 2018 a lot of what we tested over the April vacation and got the results back would have passed in 2018 because it was under 15 parts per billion. But in any event, we will continue the testing, and that will go through probably mid-July, early to mid-July, and we'll have that all complete. I just wanted to tell you some things that we are faced with when we come across with any faucet, any location with 5 parts per billion or higher. We have essentially 3 options. You can take it out of service completely. That's one. You can repurpose a faucet for hand washing only because lead doesn't transfer through the skin. Or you can replace a fixture, but it doesn't just stop there. When you replace a fixture, which we would have to pay for out of our own budget, we would then have to retest to make sure that that amount gets down below 5 parts per billion. There are some cases, and DES have said that in roughly 30% of the time, if you replace the faucet, you still may test and get 5 parts per billion or higher. However, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Let's see. So let's just do a really quick example. We come across a faucet. We don't know until we and send it out to the labs, and we get the lab report back. When we find out the lab report says you're at 5 parts per billion or higher, we immediately shut the water source to that particular faucet down. We put a label on it saying do not use for food or anything. We do notify parents and guardians in a letter, and you probably saw the parent square that went out. But we also put on our website a clear path so that you can get right on and check the school's results. I would also add to that DES, which has been a great partner, they're going to be at our meeting tomorrow, 2 of their chemists. If you go on to the website for DES, Drinking Water for Schools, you'll be able to see not just Concord's results from round 1 from 2018, but you'll also see the current results of what we've done so far. And then, of course, the 3rd round of testing over this 6-year period has to be done before June of next year, 2024. So it is a lot of work. We have about 633 faucet locations throughout the entire district that we're testing, and we plan to continue testing until, like I said, mid-July or sooner to get those results. And then as soon as we get results, I would expect that is a tight margin, the 5 parts per billion. When we'll treat it the same way, if we find out, we shut off the water source, report the remediation plan to DES, we get their approval, and then we start retesting.
Go ahead, Mr. Croto.
So Matt, when you change a faucet out, I'm assuming you're not using any sort of lead-based solder anymore.
Nope.
So there must be some sort of quick connect products
There are different types. You can use PEX as a common, newer. I say new, but it's been around for about 15, 20 years. But it's a plastic style approved.
Yeah.
No PFOAs or anything in it.
So
but
is it your hope and mission to get all 650, or the number that are testing positively and over the limit changed out in a certain amount of time?
It is. So I think any faucet where it could be deemed someone could fill a water bottle, a student and a staff member, I think we need to go through and check all of them and see where they stand. There might be some faucets that it makes sense to just convert to hand washing only, which is acceptable. But depending on what the results yield and where their locations are, I think we're gonna have situations where the recommended, I'll recommend that we change the faucet. But again, it doesn't stop there. We have to then go through the whole process to make sure that we are chasing the lead out of the building.
So I was gonna say, you just can't assume that the faucet itself is the lead problem, that whatever sending source it is, could be a hot water heater or...
I'm glad you said that. The city produces an annual report. Their water is tested all the time. Very, very good report from the city. Our mission is to find out, is it coming from the faucets? A lot of times they say stagnant water, if it isn't used over the weekend or whatever, they recommend you run the faucet, flush it out. Those protocols I want to try to implement once we get through this process. But our goal is, if we determine those locations, we're going to put a new faucet in, and we retest. If we have chased it down below 5 parts per billion, then that's a good thing. But if we haven't, then we need to dig further and find out where it's coming from and eliminate it.
Not an easy process.
No, it's time consuming.
Any other questions? I'll ask a question because, as a parent, lead is one of the biggest things you're concerned about your child ingesting. 2 things I have. I'll get into details on sampling procedure because this is where I started my career. 5 parts per billion is very, very low and easily cross-contaminated, so I just would ask that. But more pressing and more pertinent right now, my question is, those students in those schools, have we established alternate water sources for those, as well as in the cooking or any of the food preparation areas, to make sure
Yes.
that everything that's touching anything being consumed by our children is safe?
Yes, absolutely. As we've noted, there were at Beaver Meadow and at Runlet, we had a kitchen sink. And again, immediately we secure the water source. So even if you turn the faucet on, you can't get any water out of it. And then we put a label, and belt and suspenders, we put blue tape with a big X on it, just to make sure. Again, once our remediation plan gets accepted, we'll go back, we'll replace the faucet, retest, and see if we've gotten it out. And if we haven't, we'll keep going until we do.
So there's a fair number of, I read through the report, the fair number of outlets at the Beaver Meadow School. Are we providing alternate water source for those kids to drink? As
Yes.
we're getting into some warm months. And
Over my left shoulder, we have those type of water jug cooler. I worked with Kathleen last week, and we got those into the schools that had some test results, again, to offer an alternate source for drinking water.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's
sure. And then
I'm most concerned about.
As Kathleen had mentioned, tomorrow at 5:30, we're going to do a Zoom call. We have Cynthia Clevens from DES and Leanne Atwood, who we've worked and talked with numerous times, and they're going to be with us to answer any questions that may come up over the Zoom meeting tomorrow. And then I'll report out the following night at the Capital Facilities Committee meeting.
Very good. Other questions? Go ahead, Mr. Weinberg.
Thank you, Matt.
Sure.
To maybe assuage some fears, can you maybe talk about what 5 parts per billion looks like? What is the length of time someone would need to consume that for it to have detrimental effects?
Funny, we asked that. So when we asked the DES last week, we asked that too. We said, what does that actually mean? And they said, based off of a 70-year-old person, if they consumed 2 gallons of water every single day for the life of 70 years, they may have lead, and lead goes to your bones. Thank you. Good question for tomorrow, though, so if you zoom in, you'll be able to.
The other piece of information that they offered us was that all of the experiences they've had, the lead levels, especially in children, because that's really where the damage is with lead, is from paint. They've not had experiences where water was the source of high lead
levels in children. So that made me feel a little bit better.
In New Hampshire.
In New Hampshire. In New Hampshire, because we have
Flint, Michigan.
obviously Detroit and other situations, but this was New Hampshire experience, which was a little bit validating for us as Matt and I were trying to work our way through it.
That's fine, but don't
I'm-
get too complacent because lead is cumulative, and you know, it's a major concern for our children, certainly from this member of the board, and I'm sure from everybody else too. So, we look forward to further updates. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Very good. That's it for you,
I'm good.
Superintendent, right?
I'm good.
We have been here an hour and a half, and the next item is public comment on agenda items only. However, I don't see a tremendous number of people out there, so I would make a motion that we allow public comment on any item at this time so that we're not holding people here too awfully late.
Second.
Second on that. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so now I will open a public comment session. We have just moved to be able to be on any topic whatsoever. If you are going to wish to make a public comment, please step up to the microphone, sign in, and we ask you to limit your comment to 5 minutes, and we appreciate you coming in today.
My name is James Burton. My daughter attends Beaver Meadow Elementary School. I've met with the superintendent twice. I just am here to introduce myself so you guys could put a face when I start sending out the emails and stuff like that. I was assaulted at Beaver Meadow in the car line. I'm not gonna get into the details. Because of the language I used, I was the one trespassed from picking my daughter up from school. So, until the trespass order is lifted, I will continue to come here and complain, send emails. I wasn't threatening you with the marching. I was giving you a courtesy. Like, I will organize my friends and we will march up and down that street in front of the school. What was done to me was wrong. If I was somebody else, I wouldn't even be here. I am respectfully asking that this trespassing order be lifted because I do not want to take the time to do that. But I love my daughter and I will. And that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Mr. Burden.
Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in and speaking to us.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment at this time? Not seeing anything, I will close the public comment period. We will have another public comment period at the end, should there anyone wish to make a comment at that time. Next item is financial report. The finance report, Mr. Dunn, will you be handling this?
I will.
Thank you.
And okay, you have in your report the same report I've done every couple months for you, or every other month. This upcoming payroll will be the first of 3 payrolls that will happen over the next month. Our fiscal year ends June 30th, so this coming Friday the 9th will be the last pay where we pull deductions from folks. Whether you are 21 pay, 22 pay, 26 pay, 27 pay, we always take deductions out of 20 paid. So that will take care of the benefits portion of the budget. Then the last payroll for the year will be on the 23rd, and then we will issue all the severance checks by the end of the 30th. So I only put that based on how payroll is doing in processing, because they have to send out the last payroll on the 23rd, then they have to calculate what people's severance are and get all that out and turn the system over for a July 1 start. And based on the payroll, it's going to be split between 2 different fiscal years. So, but as of right now, this will start to tighten up and solidify for the year. The thing I will highlight, nothing in particular in the salaries, except probably on this page 2 of 8, call-in subs. You can see 106,000 in the hole, based on absences and the need to have people come in. And then probably the next piece, I'll get into professional services on page 3 of 8. You will see professional services for pupils, 407,000 negative. That is student services, special ed. And then also their contracted services, that negative 183. That is a combination of student services as well as any maintenance or facilities needs. So you can see in the professional services line, 635,000 negative right now. You can also see on page 3 of 8 under the repairs and maintenance, negative almost 200,000, and I expect that to decline based on the HVAC system repairs that have been significant. After 2 years of COVID, these systems, train practically lives up there. I mean, it's constant, and you know, we're looking to do some replacements and upgrades that we've talked to you about, and probably you may hear about tomorrow night or Wednesday night. I don't know. So I expect that to go a little bit higher. As I move down, we get into out-of-district transportation, page 4 of 8, $580,000 in the hall. That is between McKinney-Vento, transportation of special needs students, and reimbursement for parent transportation. If I go down, there's nothing else on the expense side that I'm overly concerned about. I think everything will be okay, but they're the big highlights. And we'll see once everything figures out. Again, we need $2.2 million to carry over into next year. If that falls short, we'll come to you with some solutions to mitigate that, and if there's more, we'll talk about other solutions. So, on the revenue side, there's nothing in particular right now that's sticking out. We have some of our last billing that will come in through the city for the tax revenue. There's some final billing that will come in for CRTC and all the sending students. Final tuition to Deerfield for special ed and for their sending for their tuition students. And I think it's important to note that for when you look at Deerfield, that's $3.3 million in revenue between special education costs and their regular ed students. So, as you're aware, that contract expires next June. So, that is something that we'll need to keep an eye on. But other than that, nothing else that I can highlight or say that I have a concern about at the moment.
Okay. Questions? Go ahead, Ms. Meeker.
I'm curious what budget line item the lead testing is hitting, and if it's cheap to test lead.
So the testing is free. It's
Okay.
the repair and maintenance line that will start to get hit if we start seeing excessive
Okay, so the lab
repairs.
testing is all free.
That's covered. That's the state.
Perfect, thank you.
Other questions for Mr. Dunn? I guess I would ask Mr. Dunn, as you look into the projected end of the year shortfalls, mostly is what I'm looking at, is would that alter your expectations for next year's budget, which we passed in March, significantly? Would you change your?
Not at this time, no.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Mr. Richards?
Go ahead. Ms. Hastings.
The 106,000 that we're behind on this substitutes, is that above and beyond what we had budgeted?
Yep.
And what had we budgeted?
We budgeted
couldn't find that in
for
there.
call-in subs, Well, it's tough to benchmark it against the last 2 years considering, COVID. But we had lowered that because we've been increasing the number of permanent subs. Because we have permanent subs at every level. And we've added permanent subs, trying to mitigate it, but.
It's almost $400,000 in substitutes this year.
And then that doesn't include the salaries you have for the permanent subs, which is, we budgeted 409, we spent 275 so far. We're projected to spend 321,000. So absences cost a lot of money.
Mr. Dunn, is the increase in call-in subs because we could not hire an adequate number of permanent subs? Because we're below the budget on permanent subs and above on call-in subs. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
So
they may not be able to hire, because if they hire one of them between benefits and all, you're probably going to be in the high 30s for someone. So that's equivalent to what, about 2 point some people. But yeah, if someone leaves, if we have trouble hiring, we're calling them the sub. When you look at the number that you have at each level, it may not be enough to mitigate the number of absences.
Thank you. Other questions? Go ahead, Mr. Croto.
Mr. Dunn, on page 4 of 8,
yep,
you have voice communications is up 150.95%.
Yeah.
Is that related to the new phone system, or tell me what that's about?
No, it has to do with, we have some stuff that in ESSER that has to be reclassed that has not been reclassified yet. So, plus there's some E-rate that offsets that mitigates it, because they reimburse us from the federal government. So it's going to be a combination of either not having not enough budgeted, plus there's some expenses in there that need to be moved out. So we're going to spend the next 2 weeks over cleaning all these things that we can up, because we're coming to the end of the year and we shouldn't see any more. Most of the bills by the 15th or 20th of the month, we're done.
And one other that is only a total deficit of 56,000 plus, but the percentage increase is 133.62, which is information access fees. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So yeah, there's subscriptions to softwares, programs. So let me see. Yeah, so that's what that is at the moment. Now I noticed that there's 70,000 in requisitions, and I know that there is some things that we are taking care of as it relates to cybersecurity. So I need to verify that should they have been in ESSER, which is eligible, or should they have been in the general fund? Also, were they put in the correct year? Are they FY24 and they entered them into this year?
Okay.
So I'm not overly concerned about that.
Good, thank you. If you're not, I'm not.
Thank you, Mr. Croto. Other questions? Go ahead, Ms. Hastings.
I'm looking on page 3 of 8.
Yep.
And our special ed services, it looks like are 400,000 over as well.
Yeah.
What, can you tell me what that would be for?
So that would be for your out-of-district transportation or any one-on-ones that you might need to bring in, any nursing services that you have to bring in, which has been extensive.
Okay, and then other professional services?
Yep,
What is,
combination of those two lines.
so that's another almost 200,000?
Is, Mr. Dunn, is that because we did not estimate or allocate enough in that particular area, or is it because of an increase in cost for those items?
It's
Probably everything.
Sort of a moving target, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's probably, being in this job, it's one of the most frustrating things, because it doesn't stop. I can't, there's no such thing as a budget freeze when it comes to this stuff. I can't control it. I mean, to the best we could, we try, but once they put it in the IEP, we're mandated.
So we're required to spend that money?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is any of that
Now,
reimbursable for catastrophic aid? Or?
Yeah, all that stuff's going on now. Now, let me also highlight, take a look at the encumbrance line underneath. See 601,000 of encumbrance and 202. So there are purchase orders that are sitting, waiting to be spent. Now, is it they are one of the few that have the override capability to go over the budget line because I have to spend it. And I'd much rather have them have a purchase order than to say it comes over and then I have all this paper with no purchase orders on it. So they're allowed to go over. Are there students that have come in and left and now there's a line because when they put in something, I'll give you an example, they just put me a line in for $78,000 worth of transportation. Just went in literally the other day. Now, is that because we have transportation outstanding bills from third parties that are for that, for a third-party vendor? Because it's not going to be what it is going to be the end of the year, but they're the kind of things that I don't know until we start reconciling everything. And they start pulling it out for special ed aid, Medicaid, which you see on the revenue side, the Medicaid right now is $63,000 above what we had budgeted, and they promised me it's going to be a lot higher than that, which I hope because I budgeted $700 next year based on our discussion. So, but when you look on page 7 of 8, you see the Medicaid is $73,000 above what we budgeted. All that up there contributes to what's down below. Special ed is very difficult. It is hard because you have certain caps and you don't know. You could get a move in and you can get a move out.
And the cost of some of these placements is incredible. I mean, Crotchet Mountain was running anywhere around 250,000. We have a student, we have students in residential placements that are in that range.
How many students do we have in residential placements? Wasn't it around 18?
Yeah, I'd have to go back. I don't have it with me.
Okay.
John had just did that analysis of kids and where they are. We've had a very large number of foster placements. And remember, no matter where they are, we own them and we have to pay the services that whatever that might be. And many of them have support services. You've heard John talk about, just think about the number of referrals that we've had in preschool. Up to 150. So
crazy.
That then comes the once they are in preschool, right, in our early learning program. That's their 3-year-olds. We have to provide for them. That means speech and language, OT, PT, and nursing services. We have a number of very medically fragile youngsters. They're in their learning environment, right? Their least restrictive environment. But with that comes, costs of a nurse and paras. And transportation is the other thing Jack alluded to. It's unbelievable the cost for transportation. And Terry's done. We've done as much as we can on our own, but he has to use outside sources and
It ranges
providers.
from 250 to 500 hours a day.
Yeah, without
Transport
even
kids.
yeah. We have
So-
students that, are over in the area of the seacoast, it's $600 a day. It's the best answer is, what John expects or anticipates for Medicaid reimbursement. It's up there, he's hedging 900,000, close to $1 million in reimbursements, but, it's a reimbursement, you've already spent the money.
Right.
There's a group of us getting together to talk about transportation, because if you're spending this much, okay, should we buy vans? But, if you're going from here to the seacoast, is that gonna make sense? How many are gonna be along the way? 1, 2, can you get the drivers? All of our bus fleet, we have 26 big buses and 12 or 13 small buses. Of all those buses, one of them is a non-CDL bus. All the rest require CDL. So could we get some, what they call 10-passenger or 9+1 buses, and maybe get non-CDL people to drive? Well, we get those. The problem is we can't get the vans. They're all back ordered. If you order new buses, if you order a bus today, it's about a year before you'll get one. Electric buses are 8 months behind, 6 to 8 months they're telling us. And these, like I said, these 9+1s they call them, we're having trouble getting, quotes to be able to get them in a timely manner, if we even want to entertain that. So.
Other questions? I am sure we will revisit this again as we go through the summer, and we trust you'll make plans to make this as economical and minimize our costs in this area as we head into next budget season. So.
No, let's hope the state budget comes through for us. That will help mitigate a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, because remember, you used one-time money of about $2.4 million out of your trusts. We did that with the hopes that the legislature will come through to try to smooth that in.
Yeah, because we're smoothing some pretty big peaks and valleys. Well,
Yep, yep, coming out of COVID and coming out of ESSER. Just trying to land it on the runway.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. All right. Personnel.
Good evening.
Ms. Guerin, are you going to cover this one?
I think we're gonna start with CAA nominations, Superintendent Murphy.
As I go to the page. Sorry. I was looking at the enrollment for out of district, and it was 28.
28.
No, it's not 50K.
Thank you. Probably tagged it. Okay, I tagged it. So I'm pleased to present and to nominate for you the position of assistant principal at Concord High School, Graham Crowder. I think you heard from Graham. He's been with us. Very excited about the position. Knows our students. Cares deeply for the students. I think his work as a curriculum facilitator in the area of math has been really powerful for us, and has worked very closely with both the high school staff and the middle school staff. So I move his name forward to you.
Okay.
Move the nomination.
Okay, we have the motioned by Ms. Walsh and seconded by Mr. Weinberg. Is there any discussion with regards to Mr. Crowther's recommendation? Not seeing any. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. Welcome, Mr. Crowther.
You're in.
And second nomination that I'd like to place for you tonight is Jay Richard. Jay currently serves as the principal of the Oyster River Middle School, student body of about 650. The references and the folks that we talked to were outstanding. And he, as you heard him tonight, he's very excited to be here. We did not know he had his roots in Concord, that he was born here, and his family had stores downtown. That was
It was just a Concord icon for a long time.
And but he did a great job. The student responses and the surveys that we got back were excellent when he spent the day there. And students were particularly pleased about how focused he was on students, able to answer questions, and by the way, some tough questions, as you know, they always do ask. So I'm pleased to be able to place Mr. Richard's name in front of you tonight for nomination.
All right. Is there a motion to?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Robinson. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Higgins. Is there any discussion? The salary is consistent with what we would have planned for this position?
Right. I mean, it's all done by a formula in the CAA. There's no real negotiations with it. It's pretty much delineated in the CEA agreement. So,
Any other questions? All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The nomination passes. We welcome Mr. Richard.
And lastly, for administrator, tonight again, you met Lindsay Nye. I'm happy to place her name in nomination. Lindsay comes to us from the community school in Henniker with lots of experiences. You can tell she has lots of energy, and that was the message I got when we did her reference checks. And we're pretty excited. She went through an extensive interview process with staff over at the Christopher College School. So I'm pleased to place her name in front of you tonight for nomination.
Do I have a motion to accept the recommendation for Ms. Nye?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Higgins. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Meeker. Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Welcome, Ms. Nye. Motion passes.
Thank you. Wonderful. I think Michelle's gonna take care of teacher nominations.
Correct. So we have some new teacher nominations that will be new to the district. On your first sheet on page 55, we do have some new educators at Concord High School, at Runlet Middle School, at Beaver Meadow, and at Millbrook.
Does anyone have any questions with regards to the nominations on board book pages 55 and 56?
Are we doing 57 and 58 too?
Those are coaches.
Those are,
Coaches.
no, those are existing teachers.
Oh, those
So we're
are-
just doing the new teachers.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept the recommendations for the teachers? Moved by Ms. Walsh, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by
Ms. Higgins.
Ms. Higgins. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, on page 57 and 58, we have nominations for existing staff that will be transferring or coming back, one-year onlys that are now securing a continuing contract. And some of the math coach.
Right.
I actually had a question about the funds for the math coach, not the math coach itself. That it's Title I, and during our extensive budget conversations about this, I think one of the things we went back and forth on is concerns that the math coaches also be able to work with students, and, you know, that would be difficult if we use straight Title I funds as opposed to.
So they're split between the general fund, the amounts that you approved, and Title II, I believe.
Right.
Oh, this is Title I, but okay.
There, because it's Title II is professional development, the coaches fit nicely into that title grant. And so that is the coaching PD part. The operation part, the other half of their salary comes out of your budget and allows them interventions.
Okay, great. It's just, it says the.
Yep, that should be Title II.
And it suggested 100%, that's what it was. Great, thank you.
Other questions? All right, do I have a motion to accept the teacher nominations?
I'll move that one.
Go ahead, Ms. Hastings, thank you.
I'll second
And do
that.
we have a second? I'm sorry, Mr. Weinberg. Seconds, any discussion further? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes.
Okay, we have two new fall coach nominations for girls varsity volleyball and girls junior varsity volleyball.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept the coaching nominations?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Higgins, is there a second? Second by Mr. Cotton. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The coaching nominations are approved.
And then returning coaches for the fall seasons.
That's on the back page. I move that we accept our returning coaches.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Croto. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. They are approved. All right.
Getting there.
Moving on to the instructional committee. Ms. Hastings,
Sure.
do you have a report for us?
I do have a report. We met on May 15th and are bringing two motions to you tonight that I hope you've had a chance to look at. Much of the information that was shared with us at the instructional committee meeting is provided for you in the packet. We began with a presentation from the Social Studies Committee, including members Mary Wilson, teachers, Jim Corkum and Rebecca, I hope I say this right, Tancreed? Yes. I always worry about saying names wrong. And they shared that it was a 2-year process that the committee had undertaken to adopt a new CSD curriculum that aligns with the federal C3 competencies. There's been a lot of collaboration reported between the elementary schools and the middle school and the high school to make sure that there's vertical alignment for each grade, which is something that we've been talking about for quite some time. The competencies, K to 12, have been shared previously, as have the grade level competency for topics to be covered, which include economics, geography, history, inquiry, and communication. And the overarching goal of these competencies is to guide students to understand what it means to think like a historian. So it's not just getting facts and memorizing them, it's really thinking about what it would mean to be a historian and how would you interpret the information that you're given. The committee agreed that continuity from grade to grade and school to school are going to be critical for an equitable learning experience for all of our students. And it was agreed with the committee. They thought that that was important as well. The documents that you'll find in your folder are living documents, and clarifications are still being made. We had some questions about some of the headings at the top. If you were to look real quick at the
We have that document.
you didn't get this one?
No, we did not. We just have like a.
All right, I can share. I'd be happy to share this and send this to you all. It's the curriculum.
That makes me feel better because I was like, oh, this doesn't tell me much.
No, okay. No, I thought that was in there. I apologize. Yeah, and we saw that some of the goals and criteria were similar from grade to grade, so they were going to work on that. So we hopefully can get a new updated curriculum guide from them for this. But at the end, the instructional committee voted to bring it to you all for adoption for the 23-24 school year, with the understanding that it is a living document and clarifications are still being made. Do you have any questions?
Questions?
I guess we don't have it.
Right.
No.
So it's hard. I would rather
Okay.
table
Yeah.
it.
So, all right, please, you can make that motion.
I will move that we table both till the next, both the social studies
competencies?
and the math until the next meeting when we have them.
Because you don't have them.
Because we don't have them.
They weren't put in here?
No,
We
they're
just
not
have
in
like
there. General.
the intro page.
So the motion has been made to table this item on pending receipt of more information.
Superintendent Murphy had something to add.
Tonight's vote was for the competencies only in social studies.
That's these,
all
though,
the
right?
detail,
And they don't
right?
have them.
They have those.
Yeah, we have the
all the
competencies. That's
details
what these are.
that all the skills and objectives of it is the next steps. So what my understanding was is they wanted you to support the competencies in those five strands.
Okay.
And then, once they knew that you accepted those, then they would go on and develop all the objectives, the skills, all the assessment kinds of things. Am I right?
Yeah, the standards.
Yeah.
Yeah, we presented those sub-documents to the instructional committee for information just to view only, but those are still going to be worked on, as well as the rubrics where we measure the competencies. So the important piece was to just get the competencies out for approval, because that is the curriculum, and, well, it's not the program, it's the overarching competencies that we've developed. Everything else is a subset of skills and standards that would fall at grade level, scope and sequence, which we're happy to share, but they're still in draft form.
I think Mr. Weinberg and the instructional committee had some questions about the competencies outlined on the social studies. Do you remember?
Yeah, it was about history.
Right.
There, you'll see as you go through the history competencies on just this form, not the more specific ones, that they all list the same kind of themes, and so we were just curious about the differences between the different grade levels within the competencies, and I think committee clarified that they're integrated within other parts of the curriculum, and it's still kind of working through in its novel state.
Which is why we called it a living document, knowing that that would change. We wanted you to be aware that we did notice that. It was brought up.
Thank you. We have a motion to table.
Well, I have a question
this.
ahead of that. Quickly, it's about the tabling.
Well, tabling is actually a non-debatable motion, but I will withdraw my motion.
Actually, I was gonna say, we have
to. My concern is that we don't want to hold up their work. We have a group of educators that are working their butts off to really put together quality stuff, and if they're waiting for us to give the green light on step one, then I don't want them to have to wait a month to get the green light on step one.
That's exactly what they were looking for.
Right.
They wanted the green light on the competencies, and now they'll go back, and I believe they're working this summer to be able to put, as a committee, to begin to do that more detailed work. And that will be the next step that they will bring to the instruction committee, which will finalize the entire document.
So with regards to a motion to table, which we must address, do you withdraw your
I
motion?
do withdraw my
Okay,
motion.
so we can withdraw that motion. And,
Would you like the motion, should I make the motion to adopt? the
you,
Or-
you may.
Okay, we'll make that motion then, to bring the competencies and living vertical alignment to the full board for adoption for social studies.
Okay, motion for bringing the competencies, approving the competencies as presented to the board for mathematics and social studies. Has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Go ahead, Mr. Carson.
Just to talk to Jonathan's concern a little bit, my experience has been that you can have these sort of broad-based objectives, if you will, or competencies, but they get down to the specifics once you get down to grade levels and that sort of thing. So students in 8th grade are not going to be applying and demonstrating knowledge of major eras the same as kindergartners or the same as high school students. Just for clarification.
Thank you.
And I'm assuming that's exactly what's going on.
I had a question about the elementary. I noticed that New Hampshire history isn't included under history, but geography, it is included under geography, and maybe because we're living New Hampshire history curriculum in my household right now. But I'm wondering why that was left out, because of the K through 5 competencies, or all of the competencies, actually.
Someone care to answer that?
Well, you can see that they'll move up a little bit from New Hampshire to United States to the world in a progression. So if you look at history, grades 6 through 8, they speak of the state, the United States, and the world. And then it looks at forces of changes once you get to 9 to 12 in history. So the competencies that are being stated are somewhat more developmentally appropriate for those specific grade levels.
Okay. But like they study New Hampshire history in elementary school, and it's not in here. So
Yeah,
that's
it's
my
always 4th grade, right?
Well, they do in 4th grade, but that's one of the things that we'll look at when we look at the skills and the standards as to when different units will where they'll fall, because this is sort of a revamp entirely.
And then I guess, are we grading elementary school? How are we determining that elementary school, like, social studies competencies are not on my kid's report
Correct.
card? And they don't seem to get a whole lot of attention, or at least as a parent, I can't tell if they're getting attention. Is that something we're looking at changing?
So in fact, July 10th through the 14th, we have a group of educators coming together to work on redoing the elementary report card and having it be competency-based. So the nice thing about this work is that the math and social studies, through your adoption of these, will be listed on the report card in a competency manner.
Sort of a competency-based report card now.
Yeah, exactly. And this is where we have to really make sure that we have rubrics and we have 3 to 4 pieces of evidence that students have met that particular competency. So it's sort of very much layered. There's the the overarching competencies, and then the standards, then the skills, and then the assessments.
Do these competencies comply and meet the requirements of current state law and expectations?
Yeah.
I'd assume so, but I just wanted to make sure. To ask for the question that may be asked by parents out there right now. All right?
Well, civics is the big thing right now. It's
Okay. So we have
Have a
motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? All right. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. And suffice it to say, we look forward to the details. Thank you.
We then moved to math competencies, and I believe those are also listed in your.
Didn't we just?
We just
I thought we just did both of them.
No, I thought we just did social studies.
No, we
No, I
did
think we
She made
should-
her motion.
Oh, it was
It's
for both.
No, my
No?
tabling motion was for both.
Okay.
Her motion was for social studies.
but
Well,
Jim said
we're,
both.
if we're
No,
going,
we redid it. It was both.
we're going to ask the secretary as to what the motion was, and I believe she's going to say it was for social
It was
studies
to
based
adopt the
on.
district social studies K to 12 competencies.
That is fine. Is everybody comfortable
I
with
could've-
the
Yeah.
with having,
move on.
not that? All right. Go, please go on with mathematics.
All right, for mathematics, again, we met with the math committee, working very well with K to 12. Now that I'm thinking this, I might have done that, I apologize. It's again a vertical alignment, and the goal for this new curriculum, not curriculum, the new competencies, is that students can not only successfully solve math equations, but also have a deep understanding of the process that will allow the student to not only explain what they did, but also to be able to understand it deep enough to be able to teach it to someone else. So it's a much deeper, richer way of looking at math problems, deeper understanding. And again, we're looking for just a vote to adopt the competencies.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Weinberg, is there a
Second.
second? Seconded by Mr. Croto. Discussion? My only thing is this is so very, very broad, and I guess my question would be, currently, are our students capable of not only understanding, but teaching the competencies that they are expected in this past year, for instance? Are we meeting that grade? Are we meeting that expectation?
I would say to you, yes. You have two things here. One are the 8 mathematical practices, which are on page 65, and those are come from the National Mathematics Association. And then our programs at the elementary level are designed to address the different competencies. So you'll actually find standards. You'll find, like with numbers and operations in grades 5, it will be specific to this overarching competency, and then we'll go down into the skill and the standard. And this is it's a very common representation, and the learning targets will be underneath that. So when a teacher is teaching in a particular class, they might often have the 8 mathematical standards posted, and then they'll reference the competency that you're working either on number systems, or you're working on algebraic thinking or representation, and then with the specific standard you'd see posted. And I'm just going to take liberty and ask Graham if you have anything to add to that.
Just that the competency document is the overarching curriculum. The Common Core standards that were adopted by the state of New Hampshire are the standard-based learning that delineate each grade level's separation with that competency at that level. So where I'm very thinking represents a K through 12 progression where we can track students in that specific competency throughout their educational journey. It looks very different at every grade level. And the overarching goal is that students will understand what the purpose of the standard goes to, and it's not a standard in isolation.
From my experience, my child can tell me how I do math wrong, so.
I will corroborate that.
We don't do it that way anymore.
Yeah, I'm taught on a regular basis how to do math all over again, so they're doing a good job.
Having spoken to some graduates over the last few years who are now in college, I would encourage us to do a lot of work with regards to mathematics. I'm not sure, I don't know if we ever survey those folks, but I know from a very limited number of people that I've talked to in my zone, zone is what it is now, that they don't know that they were as well prepared as their peers always. So I personally feel, and this is, once again, I personally feel as one member of this board that we have work to do in our mathematics program. So I encourage you to go to it. Be tough. So, all right. Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. All right.
I guess I would end by saying, if you have a moment, please take a look at the student guide to becoming a licensed nursing assistant that was presented to us by a student who wrote this guidebook from a project that she had at school. And it's what she wishes that she had known going through the CRTC program of becoming a licensed nursing assistant, an LNA.
I didn't think she was in CRTC. I thought she did it on her own, and that's
Was
why
it
she,
in
yes.
ELA?
Yes, it was in
ELA,
ELA,
sorry.
because if
It
you're in the
was ELA.
CRTC, you
That's
get
right.
that.
That's right.
And
This is an ELA.
she did it on
that
her own.
She did on her own, and did a great job writing a booklet about what she wishes she had known about going through this process. So I think this could be very helpful to students anywhere in the state of New Hampshire who want to undertake such a project.
It was really impressive.
It's very impressive.
Tremendously thorough and well thought out.
So we thank Gracie McHugh for doing that.
Outstanding
Yeah,
work.
I'd like to thank the members of both committees. This is hard work. It's not easy work to do, and their work is still yet to come.
Right, right.
Putting the actual bones to all of this.
And I commend us moving further into competency-based evaluations and programming. Concord was always an outlier and really leading the charge on that, and it's great to see us continuing that, so thank you for the hard work.
Any other comments? All right, very good. Ms. Hastings, does that conclude?
That will conclude it.
Thank you very much.
Approve the minutes.
Move on to communications and policy. Mr. Cotton.
Bear with us, folks.
Thought I had it bad tonight.
We've got two sets of minutes. I am going to defer to other members of our committee, and first of all, thank Kara for chairing the meeting on May 8th, which I was not able to be with you for because I had managed to fall down and smash my face.
Sorry to hear that.
So, you will see that we have a number of policies that we're in the process of reviewing. I guess, do I need a motion to adopt the minutes of those meetings?
No.
No.
No, that was,
No,
they're just submitted.
They weren't on the.
Oh, they weren't on the consent
They
agenda?
weren't on
No,
the
and
consent
neither is
agenda.
Neither were
instructional.
instructional.
Oh, well then, yes, we do need a motion to accept those minutes.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to accept the communications and policy minutes for April 10th and May 8th as presented,
Can we add instructional on there too?
and instructional.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The minutes are accepted. Please continue, Mr. Cotton. Thank you very much for that point of.
So if you'll turn to page 106 in your book, we'll talk about, first of all, policy number 136, which deals with public participation at board meetings. On 106, you'll see this current policy, and starting on 107 and going over to 109, you'll see the proposed policy, which obviously fleshes out considerably more than what we previously had, and makes clear such things as that we'll have a minimum of a 30-minute public comment period. That can be extended by board vote. Limits the time for each speaker. Also goes on to do such things as cover disruptions at the meetings and how we handle those. I'm not going to go through it all, but does anybody have any questions?
Go ahead, Ms. Walsh.
It wasn't a question, just I think the biggest, most significant change would be that it consolidates the two public comment periods into one public comment period and gives the board president the power to determine what the time limit will be based on the number of people who want to speak.
So this is a second reading.
Go ahead
Oh, that's right.
before we move
No, you
on.
can go first.
Mr. Weinberg has a question, Mrs. Robinson, whichever order.
So does that mean the first public comment would be on all items? Got it.
There would only be one comment.
One
period.
comment period. Thank you.
Could I ask a historical question? Is there a reason why we don't do that already and why we have two separate comment periods?
That was new. We didn't used to have two separate.
I believe the reason for the two separate comment periods was to allow enough time for people to speak about items on the agenda that we could get through our business. And then if the second public comment period was
About anything.
would be about anything, but we could make the choice to end that comment period if it got to be too late in the evening. I think that's the original reason for that.
Okay.
This would be a 30-minute comment period on any topic. Based on the number of signups, I believe that we would determine how much time someone would speak, but we certainly wouldn't expect us to make that smaller than a 3-minute period. And then, we could extend that comment period. There would be, people would make their comments in order of how they had signed up. And we could extend it if we wanted to, but we're not required to.
Okay.
It also allows for a further comment period if 30 minutes is not used up at the beginning of the meeting. You can use the rest of it at the end of the meeting, or you don't have to if there's nobody to comment.
Right.
Okay.
So, other questions?
I would just comment on B3, which is the kind of what we're discussing right now, which is the length of the time of the public comment. It says the board will provide a minimum of 30 minutes in a single setting to hear public comments, and it can be extended. The way that's written, it doesn't necessarily say to me that we are allotting 30 minutes. It's saying we're setting a minimum. So I'm not sure if that maybe requires clarification.
We're required by law to have at least a 30-minute
A
period.
minimum.
Right.
So you're just saying that instead of
But instead of saying we're allotting a 30-minute period, by saying we're providing a minimum of 30 minutes, it suggests that that's the bare minimum length of time, that it could go longer than that. But what we're really saying is that there is 30 minutes, and that anything over 30 minutes requires a vote
I
of
see
the
what you're
board.
saying.
I understand. It's just a matter of the
Semantics, I guess.
verbiage, and that the words here actually convey what we intend.
But it does say that we can extend by the 30 minutes by majority vote, so.
Ms. Meeker, do you have a rewrite or a suggestion that you present?
I feel like if it's clear to others, it's clear to me. I think
Okay.
it could be more clear to say the board shall allot 30 minutes in a single setting for public comments, rather than provide a minimum. That
What
would
if you just struck out minimum?
We'll provide 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. A motion?
Do we have a motion to make that amendment to the,
I move we amend the proposed policy 136 B3 to strike the words "a minimum of."
Second.
second yet? Did you get that? Ms.
Yes, I did.
Hastings?
Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, that change has been made. And
So this is the second reading. I think it's appropriate therefore to make a motion to ask the board to adopt this policy as previously amended.
we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Walsh. Now discussion. Mr. Weinberg.
So I notice it says speakers may not relinquish their allotted time to another speaker. I wasn't seeing in here, and I know this has come up a couple instances. Are people allowed to come up multiple times?
I think it is in here. It is in here someplace. Let's see.
We can wait till somebody finds it.
Everybody read that.
Yeah.
I can't find it.
I don't think it's there. And it's not me suggesting that it needs to be. It was mostly
It
just
wasn't
that.
in the old one either.
I don't recall that it was in there.
Do we need something in here to say at the discretion of the chair, or
Well,
is that
what-
not?
I think,
We've had that come up.
and I wonder if maybe folks are allowed to, of course, speak to different agenda items as part of their public comment. So if someone wants to speak on, you know, someone wants to comment on policy and they also want to comment on instructional options, I think they should be allowed to speak more than once, but during very general non-agenda items, I think speaking once and allowing space for others to speak is perfectly rational policy point to put forward.
Okay. I'm one that I want to encourage input from the public as much as possible. I would agree with Ms. Robinson that, you know, discussion of two completely separate topics should be okay. I would, you know, if they want to talk to the last day of school as one comment, and they want to talk about, you know, student handbook as another comment, that those would be two totally different items. What does the rest of the board feel on that?
I guess I'm feeling if someone were to come up here and speak and they were very passionate and they got back to their seat and they said, oh my God, I forgot to say this, I know the board chair would probably entertain, you know, an opportunity for them to come back up and just give a quick, I also wanted to say kind of thing. It should be your discretion or whoever the board chair is.
I would be inclined to let someone come up after everyone else
Mhm.
has spoken and that we haven't exhausted our 30-minute time frame.
Yeah.
I would be more inclined to do that. I didn't, you know, I would be less inclined to someone who talked for 5 minutes and then said, but wait, I have another couple items,
Right.
while there are those who are waiting. And I don't know how we codify that in the policy. Go ahead, Ms. Walsh.
Well, I think the policy does say that people will be allocated equal time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you could interpret that as if
Yeah.
you have everybody speaking and someone wants to get a second bite of the apple while other people, I think that gives the flexibility we need.
Yeah, I agree.
Are we,
That's in the post.
I know. I was gonna say, so, everybody's comfortable with the board chair having that flexibility?
Yes.
Are there any other comments with regards to the policy? This is the second reading, and Mr. Cotton has made the motion to, and has been seconded, I believe. Are we ready for a vote?
Yes.
All right, all those in favor of the motion and accepting policy 136, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Policy is adopted.
Who seconded that? I'm sorry, I just need a quick clarification. Mr.
John.
Clyde?
John.
I did.
Okay, thank you.
Jonathan just speaks up and we all just sort of talk over him or don't give him an opportunity. We apologize, Mr. Weinberg.
Doesn't matter.
Okay. Moving on, you'll see two different policies. Policy 650 and 651, which has to do with consideration of alternative course material, parental requests for that, and/or citizens' requests for reconsideration of instructional materials. What we've tried to do here is to consolidate those into policy 650, which you can find on page 113, and deals with library or specific course material. I think it's to be noted that it deals with parental objections to library or specific course materials. Sets up a policy and is consistent with the RSA's requiring this. Other comments from?
Are we taking the citizen piece away? Like, are we not having a policy for a citizen? I mean, I suppose that would be somebody just expressing an opinion and.
That was our discussion, in part because we couldn't figure out how to define citizen
Right,
you know,
like
in terms of,
a
is it
town?
just somebody from Concord? Is it somebody whose child goes to the CRTC? Is it anyone in the state
Right.
of New Hampshire? And I think, you know, if there are concerns, they can still be brought to the
Right,
board at a
correct.
public meeting,
Okay.
but that the, to incorporate that process
Right.
just for parents.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I will say we discussed this policy at length.
Yeah.
And that exact point actually is to who's a citizen, and it got very, very, very broad, very complicated.
I know when I taught health, I often had parents that were uncomfortable with their children learning health topics by somebody other than them. And so I had 2 or 3 different options for those kids that they, or simply I would provide the parents with what I would be using to teach, and this is what they need to learn, do it however, and here's the test, and just let me know they pass. Like, I would hand it over. And those, I think, are more typical complaints rather than book banning and, you know, that sort of thing.
I would like to think that's true, but.
Well, yeah, I know.
Recent history suggests.
Yeah, no. In my experience in Concord, that was, because that happened pretty regularly for me.
No, feel free to
I
finish
just
your
want to add,
statement.
I think one of the things we discussed, and just important to note, is that if there's a challenge, there's a process, a committee review.
Right.
But material is not removed
Right.
from classrooms or libraries while that challenge is going on. A parent can say that their child should not have
Right.
access, but it wouldn't be removed from the whole school.
Okay.
Ms. Robbins.
Was any of our library or media specialist personnel consulted when developing this?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes,
Very
we
glad
had
to hear that.
two of our librarians
Yeah.
came and spoke to us and did an excellent job, and it was helpful in trying to create this.
Great.
Very insightful.
Sarah, just for FYI, when we're doing policy, the policy work starts in my office, Karen and I. And we always involve people that the policy relates to, because, you know, we don't know all the ins and outs, and
Oh, yeah,
their
I expect
perspective
no
is-
less.
Yeah,
Yeah.
their perspective is great.
Great, thank you.
Based on that, and as this is a second read, I would like to make a motion that we approve Concord School District Policy 650, parental objections to library or specific course material. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, moved by myself and seconded by Ms. Higgins. I will get in there quick. So any further discussion? All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The policy is approved. Ms. Walsh?
I'd like to make a motion that we delete policy 651.
Okay, motion made by Ms. Walsh and
Second.
seconded by Mr.
Oh,
Cotton.
I'll wait
Actually
for-
got in
never
that one
mind.
ahead
Yep.
of you.
I didn't hear him.
Second, so, any discussion with regards to this? Go ahead, Mr. Weinberg.
Just a question, because I know this has been deliberated for a long time. Do most districts have a policy like this, or are we an outlier?
We're an outlier.
Okay.
Any other discussion with regards to the deletion of policy 651? All right, not seeing any. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? The motion passes. Thank you very much.
The next thing that came up was policy 211.1, exemption from immunization and TB examination. I believe all we're seeking in this case is removal of this policy. It's covered elsewhere.
Okay. I will make the motion to remove policy 211.1. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Robinson. Any discussion?
Should we, would it be appropriate to put in the motion, the reason that we're doing that? Just so that it speaks to, we're removing this policy because it's covered elsewhere?
I accept that friendly amendment by Mr. Croto, if Ms. Robinson agrees.
I do agree.
Okay, so please change the motion to include the reasoning of that this is covered elsewhere. Are you good, Ms.
I am.
Hastings, on that? Further discussion, go ahead.
Would you like, it's covered in the health manual, the district health manual.
So
It'd be
instead of
good to
elsewhere,
be
we-
specific.
Should be, okay.
Yeah, rather than,
I
because
just think
that's
that
where it
if
is.
we delete a policy, we
Yeah.
don't give a reason.
Thank you, Mr. Croto. That is an excellent amendment.
So the motion is removal of policy 211.1 as it is covered in the health manual.
District health.
District health.
Manual? Yes. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Please proceed.
So the next one is policy 216. I apologize, but the original board packet had a didn't have the right current edition of proposed first reading for the administrative succession plan. This board packet now does have it, and you've got a copy of it on separately as well. Basically, we're trying to set up a systematic plan where if the superintendent is out for any reason, the senior assistant superintendent will step in during the superintendent's absence, and also to address a succession plan where there's a resignation or vacancy of the superintendent, what steps we will take to fill that. This is a first reading, so just presented it to you at this time. If you haven't had a chance to read it yet, we would like to hopefully be able to adopt it at the next meeting. Any questions, comments?
So would anybody like to, you may make, this would be the time to make additions in between now and the next read, or changes.
I have a short
Mr.
suggestion. Paragraph 2, in the second line, where we're talking about the selection of a qualified, capable leader who's a good fit for the district, culture, etc. Many of you may remember a few years ago when we had some real issues with certification of our administration. So I'm suggesting that we put in there a phrase that says, a qualified, capable leader who is properly certified and a good fit for the district's culture.
Good suggestion.
Unless
That's a great, no, that's a good suggestion.
Unless
That
that's
was a nightmare.
prohibitive in any way, I think it should go.
Seems pretty
I guess the only question I would have on that is, if we were considering people from out of state, for example.
They would have to get their
They'd
certificate.
have to get their certification.
Well, they might be if you hold a similar certification in another state, I think that would, if you're certified in New York, you'll likely get certified in New Hampshire.
But you wouldn't be
you wouldn't be
certified.
Oh, I see, and you're indicating they have to
So
be
we'll
certified.
we'll mess with the language a little bit.
Or certifiable. Oftentimes you don't have to be certified to get hired, so,
I think your point is well taken, so.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Cotto. Mr. Conley. Any further discussion with regards to this? This is a first read. This is scheduled for the July meeting.
Okay.
Second reading.
Moving right along here, page 118, you see the current policy 512 that deals with entrance age to school. On page 119, this is a first reading again on both kindergarten entrance age and first grade entrance age. Ms. Walsh properly noted in the second to last paragraph on the page. Any child who has been enrolled in kindergarten who resided outside of Concord School District prior to August 31 and does not reach the age of 6, that probably should be 5, since we're talking about kindergarten.
Right, they've already done a kindergarten, so
This
yeah.
this is again, a first reading, but we've noted that change. If anybody has any other thoughts, please let us know.
This is the age-old debate.
There was just for folks to check an email from a community member who expressed comments about this policy as well.
So that will be in
your inbox.
Okay. Thank you.
I haven't seen that previously.
Yeah.
Am I on it? I don't think I was on it.
Was that just tonight?
Yes.
Okay.
Like just now.
Thank you. That was this evening.
Earlier
All right.
today.
Thank you for the comments. Okay, and then finally, we have policy 529.1, which deals with education of children in foster care. Again, a first reading. This is a brand new policy, but one I think that we're probably overdue on. Comments?
Once again, please submit any comments prior to second reading. As you read through this, if you see anything you would like to change and share with the board. Next, we will schedule this for a second reading in the July meeting. Okay, thank you. Mr. Cotton, anything?
I think that I would just mention that communications and policy meeting for Thursday night has been canceled. Other than that, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Weinberg.
Yeah.
Mr.
Way to go,
Weinberg, has
team.
got your email?
Awesome.
Comment. So,
So it was only in draft form.
excellent. All right. Moving on, Sustainability Committee and Subcommittee.
I will be delegating to Mr. Cashman and Mr. Dunn.
Back on May 24th, we went to the Sustainability Committee with Rob Warner as the chair. We talked about our net zero efforts as we go ahead forward and start the design of the middle school. I reminded them and let them know that we have changed all the lighting in the elementary school's central office and quite a bit of fixtures throughout the high school to LED lighting. I also wanted to say that when we look at new HVAC units, there's recs that we can apply for to get some credit back for some of the units that we use. We talked a little bit about the electric bus and the grant that's out there, and Jack, I'll probably let you speak a little bit more to that if you want to, specific to the bus, the electric bus grant. But we did talk to them about that. We talked about our work with the city and the fuel farm that they're going to be starting in about 2 weeks, and the talk about the infrastructure to go in should they convert to electric. vehicles down the road. Just look at my notes. Did I miss anything you think of? It was a good meeting.
Okay. Mr. Dunn, do you have anything to add?
Well, specific questions about the electric buses.
Questions? I have a question. Do we know where we are on net zero? Do we have an annual, we are net positive, zero, negative? Do we ever measure ourselves and assess that
Concord
and our
generally?
progress here as a school district? Because it seems to me like as we make progress towards something, we should be measuring where we are.
With our, so early on, when we look at converting to LED, we were looking at the payback rate would be about 3.1 to 3.5 years to pay that electricity. That's something we can get back to you on. Maybe
Okay. I'm just curious because are we?
It's a benchmark and see where you stand.
Are we making progress and lots of progress or incremental progress? I think if we're going to create a goal of net zero, then we should measure how we are progressing towards that year to year. Just something to consider. Anyone else have anything with regards to sustainability? Mr.
Well, I think that that's a great place to start. I mean, as soon as you could get dollar figures to let the city of Concord taxpayers know how much is being saved by conversion to LED lighting, you know, that's a small piece of the big puzzle, but it's a piece, you know, and I think the public should know and let the district smile a little bit.
I don't know if they still do. The state had an energy report by agency, how much energy they were using per square foot over time. It was great to watch because you would see some agencies were doing so well that even as their square footage went up, their total energy use was going down.
Okay.
All right.
Not that you need any more work.
Yeah.
Well, I don't.
But
My
you're
goal,
getting an assistant in a couple of weeks.
my goal is not
Couple of weeks?
Yeah, my goal is not to create more work, but to give us.
Yeah, you need, I understand that.
Okay. Anything else with regards to sustainability? Anyone? All right, let's move on. Other business, monthly enrollment superintendent?
I'm sorry, I was making some notes from that.
That's okay. I'm here to remind you when we get to your parts.
Thank you, sir. Enrollment, one of the things, and actually, Pam brought it to my attention, is around the Concord High School enrollment report, a significant decrease of 30 students between May 23rd, May of 23 and June of 23 this month. And so we started to do a little bit of work around what's going on, you know, that's a lot. And so we did, we still have some more work to do, so this is preliminary, but we have 5 high school students who are homeschooled, 2 transferred to another high school. 1 student was deceased. We had 1 student full-time, not part-time, but full-time at VLAX. We have 16 total students dropped out. 2 students graduated from high set, 1 transferred to an out-of-state school, and 2 transferred to Job Corps. Now, the 2 other things that I need to look at, which we have not yet got, was court placed. We have had several students court placed, and also the foster placements. We've seen an increase in foster placements, significant increase in foster placements. So I will do this report again for you at next month.
The 16 who dropped out, are they all 18?
They have to be 18.
Well, I know.
They can't, you're not, by law, allowed to drop out.
Yeah.
A lot of May birthdays, I guess, right?
Well, that's what
But,
I'm
you know,
wondering.
the other problem is that they're there and then you don't see them again. So just understand that some of that is students that that left, and we have no report on them.
Do we try to find them?
I'm going to turn to my folks out there, Tim and.
Some of them, we know they're in programs they're enrolled in, but they're considered a dropout until they actually are attending and participating in the program. So the 16, as Kathleen said, we have some more work to do. It's not 16 that disappeared off the face of the earth, and we don't know where they are. We know where a number of them are. It's just a matter if they do follow through with the programs we help them access. Once they do, they would come off that number as a dropout. Until they engage in that, because they are the age of 18 and an adult, and they chose not to participate in what we're offering their companies.
We had, a good example is a student at VLAX. We assumed that we were informed the student was going to be at VLAX. When we called into VLAX to check on it, they hadn't been enrolled. And so then we checked with the administration at VLAX to find out that they hadn't completed the process. So, it's that kind of thing that we chase. We chase the kids.
So we will now go back and try to find that student and help them
Right,
get enrolled.
right. Well, I
or
do
come
know
back.
where that, I do know, we did follow up and we understand it and, had a chance to talk with the parents.
And we'll do that with all 30, or whichever, at least the 16.
Right, right. Well, they know where they are. They just haven't, but they're considered a dropout when we do the report.
Well, and it's actually 60 since March, so it's.
Right.
We have March is an interesting month where we lose 29 students but gain 24 Deerfield students.
Yeah, so I think I talked to you about some of the things in the registrar that where they were double kids were being counted, Deerfield kids were being counted as Concord kids. When they looked at the address and they changed the address, then they made that adjustment. Melissa, who is our registrar, made that adjustment. We still have some work to do to clean up these numbers.
Okay, and so I guess my concern following Ms. Walsh's inquiry is, are we seeing an increased dropout rate this year? And if so, is that causing concern versus other years?
Of course it is. And we don't want any students to drop out, but it is a concern. And, we've seen youngsters who do not have motivation. And so that's what you're seeing.
Do we see that every other years? The dropout rate similar to this?
No, I think before the pandemic, you had your dropout rate down to like 1 or 2%. And now you're seeing what I would consider a significant increase.
Okay.
But it is most concerning.
Or how do we have to sort of go back and think about how interventions we were doing pre-COVID? How are we going to, we're going to be dealing with the COVID generation for a while. So how are we going to
going to deal with them.
This is a bump and not a trend?
Right. Well, you're going to deal with it for a generation because behind them come students who are not motivated based on some of the social emotional things that we're seeing. We're still seeing it. It's interesting, just recently they were looking at the number of students graduating from high school not going on to college. And some of the students' responses were really fascinating. They said during COVID they were very self-sustaining. They took care of themselves. They took care of business and with far less help. And so when it came to going back to college, they didn't want to do that. So they're out in the world of work and becoming entrepreneurs and doing things on their own and not necessarily falling into the college realm. So it's going to be interesting. I don't think this is the end of it, to be honest with you, but what is it that we can do to make sure that they're successful? It's things like the extended learning opportunities. You heard from our students about being out there and practicing what they enjoyed. The automotive kids that had jobs, and actually had internships in automotive, Grapponi and all the local places. So I think that's going to be a significant shift. You just had to listen to Ann tonight, Ann Fowler, your principal at Career and Technical, when she talked about She had 450 seats for first year, and she had 600 applications.
That's huge.
What does that tell me? That tells me that they really want to be engaged in hands-on, experiential, project-based learning. And so we have to look to the high school to do more and more of that. I think it's going to be a significant shift in the way we do business. And I see it down, and by the way, I see it down in the lower grades. So I think we have a lot of work ahead of us.
And I think if we're really concerned about dropout rates, I think that is not just a district issue, but a community-wide issue. And the way that we are viewing retaining students and finding them options for positive career pathways requires the community buy-in and community participation, especially from the business community. So I don't want to rest this solely on the shoulders of the district. It really is Concord-wide.
But I think Ann is really doing a tremendous job of outreach, going
Yes.
out, and exactly what you just described, Sarah, going out, talking to the businesses, looking to do those internships, those extended learning opportunities where they feel really successful. A good example is, look at the fire safety program. We're one of the few fire safety programs in the very large region. The program is filled. And they can't wait for these students to graduate from our program. So these young men and women, our students, have really learned a lot from these programs. They're at the fire academy. They're taking work at the fire academy. They're ready to go out and join forces with departments. Of course, they're going to continue their education because they still have a lot more to learn. But I think we're going to see more of that. And
Two of our last
that's-
year's graduates are working for local fire departments.
Say that again?
2 of our last year's graduates are working for
They're-
local fire departments.
Yeah, it's a tremendous. And again, I could go through other departments in career and technical, but the science department, some of the courses, the new courses in math that you saw when Graham presented some new math classes, that was more motivating and interesting to students. That's the kind of thing that I think you're going to see more and more of. And I think that's the way we're going to address this issue. I will always say that interventions are important, and tutoring is important, and helping kids with executive functioning, which is a big issue for kids, making sure they stay organized. All of those things are important, don't get me wrong. But I think those hands-on programs where they really develop relationships with adults are going to be the winners.
Thank you. Look forward to.
Yeah, it
your
was
your
really
further
troubling.
work.
No, it was really troubling.
Any other enrollment issues?
Actually, no.
Okay. I'm not asking for any. I'm just curious. Anybody have any other questions? Let's move on to calendar.
Part of your calendar, this month's calendar, you have, I think Matt mentioned it, capital facilities on Wednesday. That's the only other meeting this week, although we will have that Zoom meeting on tomorrow night at 5:30. There was scheduled a policy meeting, communication and policy, but that's been canceled. Next week, City Council is having a public hearing on Memorial Field. That's something that we all want to be in attendance. I know Jack and I talked about it, and we'll be there.
Yeah, I'll go.
Is there a time? Is it
6? Isn't it 6?
It looks like 7 to me.
Or 7.
Was it 7? I think it was 7, but I didn't get a definite time. I'll correct that on you. Wall of Fame event at Concord High School, pretty exciting event for I think for the seniors. Finn talked about it, but it's also a unveiling of that Wall of Fame, and I think that's going to be pretty neat to be at. Negotiations in city and community on the 14th, and of course graduation at 10 o'clock at Memorial Field. Followed the next week with instructional committee. Our last day of school for our students is the 21st, and in the evening we'll have a policy committee. Last day for teachers is the 22nd. and the last week in June will just be executive and finance. I will be away, and John and Kim and I will be away on the evening of the 27th through Friday to be at the superintendent's conference. July, I think, did we do a motion? Did we have a motion?
Yeah, there's a motion.
Did we?
Yeah, you just have to motion.
Yeah, you know, there was a concern about the 3rd being your board meeting, first Monday of the month, right? But you do have the authority, based on the review by our attorney, that you can make a motion to move your board meeting. And given the way 4th of July falls on Tuesday, we suspected that many people might be away that weekend for a long weekend. So I think the only way you can do that is if you make a motion to move the meeting to July 10th.
Correct, it requires a motion in the vote.
Yes,
of
it
the board.
does. Do you want me to?
moved?
So the motion to move the July board meeting from the 3rd to the 10th has been made by Ms. Robinson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Walsh. Any discussion?
I'm away that week, the 10th through the 12th, through the 15th, and I would hate to miss both of those board meetings. Is there any way we could move the meeting on the 12th to a different time? I know a lot of people are away. It's a hard month. but-
It is a hard month to schedule much. That's a very important meeting.
I know it is.
I have no conflicts with that, but I don't know if any of the rest of the board would have.
Even like the 6th, could we
So move
bump it
from
up
the
to the,
19th.
from the 12th to the 6th?
To a Thursday?
Yeah, no?
Or the 5th?
Or the 5th, Wednesday, if that's better for people?
I could also keep it at the 3rd.
No, but if she-
Not the school
Yeah.
board meeting.
She's talking about the
I'm talking about the
evaluation
12th.
meeting.
My,
I don't think I have any issues with the 5th.
Is that okay with people? So we'd move the 12th to the 5th, the special board meeting?
Second, or do we just?
No,
No,
we're
to
still
the
on the,
first.
then moving the board meeting from the 3rd to the
3rd to the
10th.
10th, right.
well, you need a motion on that.
We need a
You
motion
don't-
on that.
You don't
We
need a
can move
motion on the
one
other.
wherever we want.
Okay.
So we have a motion.
You can do that
I didn't know if we had to
anytime.
do them together or.
No, we can schedule any sort of
Okay,
the
non-public.
non-public meeting whenever we wish.
Okay, all right.
But the board meeting is outlined in the charter, and we need to make a vote to.
You'd have
make
to have a
that
different
change.
secretary that day.
We'll see what we can do. So the motion is, any further discussion? All those in favor of moving the meeting from the 3rd to the 10th, our July board meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? All right, we've moved that meeting to the 10th.
And the
then
other one to the 5th.
Superintendent, you can move the 12th to the 5th.
Okay.
Thank you.
And the only other meeting that month is an executive committee on the 31st and followed by policy.
I will not be there for either of those.
So,
Go ahead, Mr. Weinberg.
I know we've been here for a while. I just have a quick question for Mr. Cashman, because I know probably other people have been getting messages about the hot days and the schools. Could you just clarify what our procedures are to help mitigate these challenges?
So at night, we program our HVAC units at the high school, Broken Ground and Beaver Meadow, to run at night to pull the cool air in. And then we shut them down about 8 o'clock in the morning, or throttle them down, so we're not pulling in outside air. Those 4 schools don't have dehumidified air or air conditioning, so we feel that that's the best way to mitigate it.
Thank you.
My furnace came on today, so that was a very appropriate question for,
All right, other business. Superintendent, do we have need for a non-public session?
very
this
quick,
evening?
very quick.
Okay,
Yes.
so,
Under,
A gazillion.
I'll make a motion to move into non-public session pursuant to RSA 91A:3, Section 2.
Yep.
A, D2.
No,
I.
just
No,
A.
just A.
I.
I don't need
G.
any more than that. I don't.
Just
unless
A.
somebody else
Just
does.
A?
Oh, okay.
Just a little
They
A.
were just all those listed.
Well, we
Is there
didn't, we weren't sure.
Okay.
is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Robinson. This is a roll call vote.
Before that, do we have a need to come back into public session, or can we say now that we will not be back?
I think we can, we do not have any further business after the non-public.
Well, you didn't offer public comment. Do you feel you
Oh,
need to?
that is absolutely correct. Thank you, Superintendent, for pointing that out. Before we go into a non-public session, is there any further public comment this evening on any topic? Not seeing any, let us move on to thank you, Superintendent, for that. Let's move on to Mr. Weinberg's motion. And seconded, any further discussion? All right, roll call vote, Ms. Stacy?
Mr. Richards?
Yes.
Ms. Walsh? Yes. Ms. Higgins?
Yes.
Mr. Weinberg?
Yes.
Mr. Cotton?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Ms. Meeker?
Yes.
Mr. Croto?
Yes.
And I, yes.
So we will move into non-public session. We do not anticipate any further business. After we come out, we will simply, my expectation is we will seal minutes and adjourn. Therefore, we'll cease our broadcast of this. Thank you, everyone who came. Good luck, Finn. All right, we're in non-public. Thank you.